Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. My name is Colin Moriarty, filling in again for my brother Dagan Moriarty, who will be back at some point in the future. I have no idea when. I am seeing him next week because our mom is retiring, actually, and we're having a party for her at the Jefferson in Richmond, the hotel. And so I'm really excited to see him, and maybe I'll ask him then, are you ever coming back? Because I don't really know. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined, as always, by three wonderful people from our orbit. Nice cadre of people today. I'll go in the order that they appear on my screen. Brad Ellis.
Hello.
Summon sign. Your hair looks wonderful today.
Thank you. I'd cut it. Yeah, I'd cut it shorter. It's summertime, dude. I'm on the short hair arc now for summer.
Do hairdressers cut their own hair?
Sometimes some things, but most of the time, no. I'd say
so.
No.
Do you think the person you go to is really nervous because you have a better eye than most for?
No, because he's the one that taught me everything. So,
okay.
No.
Okay.
He
Well,
was
you look lovely. You look wonderful.
Thank you.
How's life?
Good, man. Elden Ring DLC is close. Final Fantasy 14 expansion is close. I'm sitting pretty right now. I'm good. I'm hyped up for video games.
I'm always hyped up for video games in some sense, I guess. But this is about as hyped as I'm going to get, like the way I look and feel right now.
Right.
It's about as hyped as I am. Well, it's good to see you. Thank you for being here today.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Smith, producer. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's rainy outside, and my sister is having a yard sale, and so my kids wanted to put some of their toys and stuff in it. And they made a bunch of cookies, and I think so far, all they have sold is the cookies and none of the toys. Yeah,
nice.
But you make more money on the cookies than the toys anyway, so it works out.
I used to do my dad did a couple garage sales in the 90s on Long Island when I was there, and I sold some stuff. Like I had like my own little table, and I sold like all my Marvel figures for $1 a piece, and like did other things. And so I haven't had a garage sale in many years at this point, but I don't think I have anything to really sell because I just throw things away.
The only things I have that I would personally like, I have a lot of stuff that I wouldn't mind getting rid of, but it's all stuff I would want to take to like a trade store or sell it on eBay or something. It's not something like, it's collectibles, stuff that I don't need anymore. I won't display, but I'm not going to sell it for 50 cents at a yard sale. So
yeah, fair enough.
Oh.
I'm glad it's raining by you. I was looking at the weather. I don't know if this is going to come through on the screen. Probably not. This is our situation here. I don't know if people will be able to see it on bigger stuff. It's all sunny and in the 90s, basically.
Yeah,
for all of those days. Not a drop of rain. The lowest high. So it's 91, 86, 87, 91, 90, 87, 88, 93, 96, 99. Uh-oh.
Jeez.
It rains here or is overcast about 80% of the days. It's above 30. So it's really great.
Wow.
I missed that. That's like San Francisco. I loved like the cloudiness. I used to love Seattle.
It's great for depression.
Yeah. I mean, I like leaning into the depression, personally. So I love that kind of stuff. And it's just way too sunny and hot as fuck here. Oh my God, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Chris Raygun, good to see you, my friend. Welcome. Just recorded with you yesterday for when we're recording Sacred Symbols. We don't usually go twice in 2 days. So it's nice to see you again. Do you want me to pick you up and bounce you on my knee a little bit?
Nah, I'm a little too old for that, Colin.
Oh, okay.
You know how life is. The kids are going crazy. Little Sophie just found my old box of toys, obsessed with the Beyblades. You know how life goes. I woke up very early today.
Yeah, I can see that. How do you feel?
I feel terrible today because I went to bed super late. So I went to bed at maybe 3, and then I woke up at 6. So I'm feeling delirious, but I think it'll be a good thing for the show. It's good for you, horrible for me is kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
You have a fucked sleeping schedule, Chris. Every time I talk to you,
I really don't know. I feel like I feel like I was meant to be born on like a planet that was like slightly different, like almost exactly the same, but with like a different like day-night cycle.
Right,
You know
like
what I mean?
Mars. Isn't Mars's day-night cycle like 25 and a half hours or something like that? It's like
See,
almost there, you know?
That would be more my speed, I think.
Wait, when you're working out a lot, did you sleep better?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Well, maybe
I know.
time to get back on that train.
I should.
Not
I
as
should.
intense, but maybe a little.
Maybe. Yeah, it doesn't have to
Maybe
be
a
that
little bit.
crazy. I don't have to get punched in the head every day by a Russian man who's clearly killed people. Like it's probably like maybe that doesn't need to happen. But yeah, no. Now that actually Derek, because Derek obviously Snark Tank moved in, or not in, but like around
Into your
the
house.
area,
Yeah.
so we can under my desk actually.
Under your desk. Yeah.
He's sucking me off as we speak. the
You're right. The 3 hours will be good.
I think, but yeah, because he's around now, I think now that I have somebody really close, to actually like, hey, we should just go to the gym since like there's two of us now. Because it's kind of hard to go to the gym when it's just you. I don't know what it is about that, but like it's a lot harder when you don't have somebody else kind of, hey, we going? And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
It
you have
kinda
someone to keep you on
forces to do it.
track when you have a friend.
Yeah.
It's way
So
better.
I'll probably do that.
Good.
All right. Well, fair enough. I don't have any friends, so there's no one to keep me on track.
We're your
but-
friends, Colin.
No,
All
I know
right?
you are. You are my friend. It's actually on my I have a small short list here of topics that I still want to get to. One of them is Schadenfreude, which I'm really excited to get into but I need the appropriate grouping of people. Like I'll know it when I see it. But I don't think stunting. Chris is probably actually one of the people, but stunting on people is probably not Brad's favorite thing and
I can
Ben's
do
favorite
it.
thing. So we'll
I
find.
can talk shit.
Yeah, we'll talk a little shit. Maybe you'll be on that topic at one point. But one of them is, and I wrote down, friends, how to find them. Because all my friends are like far away and on the internet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's a topic for another day as well. Because I have a different topic today. Well, it's good to be here with you guys. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me and talk to us. This is Constellation. As I said, our conversational podcast goes live each and every week, typically hosted by my brother Dagan, but I'll be filling in for a while, and I'm often on the show anyway, so that shouldn't be too different. Plus, I used to host the show anyway, so nothing's really very different, actually. It's probably not even worth saying, but I'm saying it nonetheless. 3 days, or what? Do we do a week early for the show or 3 days early? I don't know. So it's early and ad free. A week over on Patreon.
Well, it's actually 8 days.
Oh, 8 days.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
8 days. Wow.
The Martian week.
Mhm.
Over on patreon.com/lasttimemedia. So thank you for your support over there of this show and all of our shows. We could not do it without you. All right. I have a combination of topics here written down. We've all submitted our emails. I don't know what order to go in. Brad, I kind of want to start with you because you're so handsome. And
thanks. I'll take that.
you have your hair looks great. We talked about that already. Your topic should get us into that a little bit, I think, but more about what you drape on top of your body, the various fabrics, I suppose, and all the rest. So take it away, my friend.
Yeah, so my topic this episode is fashion. Fashion is something I've always been interested growing up. Always really into it. I actually was considering going to school for it earlier on. Then I decided against it. But later on, I went into hairstyling, which is kind of like adjacent to it, I would say. So I've always had this fondness of it. I do like it. Style, I think, is really cool. Like, I'm just into like different pieces of clothing, and because it really can determine people's perception of you and all that stuff, I think is really interesting. So I've always been into clothes a lot. Me and my brother both actually have. I'm not like snooty about, some people could be real dickheads about fashion and like judgmental or whatever. And I just think it's interesting what people, I like seeing what people wear, and it kind of describes them to me to some extent. Because then I'm like, oh, I wonder what Colin, probably wears hoodies all the time. So jeans, his own custom t-shirts. I'm like, what does that say about Colin as a human being? I just kind of wonder these kind of things about them, because it could be a reflection of their personality. So yeah, I was just curious about like if you guys are like, I'm going to go buy clothes. I need new clothes. Where do you go? What do you do like that? What brands do you like? What do you stay away from? What's too far for you? Have you done anything that's maybe a little out of your comfort zone that you really liked, or maybe you regret pulling off some decisions? So I'm just really curious about all that kind of stuff from everybody here, because I really, I really don't know. Most of us are a bunch of dudes in our 30s. So I'm curious. It would have been interesting to have Micah's opinion on it. Maybe Colin, you could speak to that a little bit since she's your wife. You do know. But Colin, let's start with you. I'm going to ask. You need clothes. Someone's yelling at you. You look like a bum. Go buy some clothes. What are you doing? Where are you going?
I don't know, man. Like, the reality is that I just don't really buy clothes very often.
See, that's interesting too.
Yeah.
You're just like, I didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I really don't. So Micah bought me some jeans recently. I literally whittled down because I'm getting like a little bigger. So I was a 32 waist for like ever, the Jerry Seinfeld waist. And then
wait, wasn't he 31? Was he 31 or 32?
I thought it was, there's a whole episode where I thought it was like even higher than that. And then they reduced it down to 32 or something. I don't really remember, but it's something like that. Pretty normal. Like 32 was my, thing, like 32.
But you're pretty tall too.
Yeah. I'm 6 feet tall. So so that worked. I mean, I think that's right. 32, and 32, and then 34, 32, 30, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I would wear like the same jeans sometimes for years. And I ended up collecting I had like a huge collection of jeans when I was in California because they all kind of like interchangeably fit. But as I started getting a little bigger, I wear like a 34 now. I had to start getting rid of some of these older jeans, and I was whittled down basically to like 1 or 2 pairs of jeans, like total, and was just riding that train for a while. And then Micah suddenly, I shouldn't say suddenly, eventually like, I'm just going to buy you jeans because you're never going to do it. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm really not. It's important there's one important thing to note is that I am almost never dressed. In fact, I call it, when I get dressed, like when I put pants on and like a button down, I call it my uniform. And that's literally the verbiage I use for it. And it's like once a week I put on my uniform and we go out every Friday night to dinner at like a restaurant, some restaurant we like, usually a rotation of 2 or 3. And, we want to look nice when you go there. So I put on a nice pair of jeans, nice shoes, button down, just look a little better than usual. But most of my life is spent in t-shirts and sweatpants, or t-shirts now in shorts, and a copious amount of sweatshirts. And I think a lot of that has to do, so it's funny, man, you'll appreciate this. I think when I was in media and worked at IGN and I was on video and used to go in, like it's a joke in the games industry, and I'm sure it was at Game Trailers and at Easy Allies too, like the jeans and like the shirt you get from a publisher.
Oh yeah.
Like the video game shirt and all this kind of stuff. And that became kind of a joke at IGN, and reasonably so. We used to get like just everything sent to us all the time. And so in 2010 or 2011, I made the intentional move. And this was a very intentional move, and people at the time noticed, where I'm like, I'm just going to start dressing nicer. And I started wearing button downs and polos, just like that kind of stuff every day. And you could see it in the translation of the videos at IGN later on, where I'm always like kind of the nicest dressed person, or one of them, while everyone else is wearing t-shirts. And so that felt kind of good. But when I found it kind of funny in 2015, and then Last Stand in 2017, I started working for myself, never really leaving my house for work. So I just started getting overly comfortable, and fashion kind of totally fell to the wayside. So it's not that I don't like nice clothes. I think nice clothes are great. It's just, I don't really care. And so I make my own t-shirts. This is not this is a real Dread shirt, but I make a lot of like graphic tees. I love wearing graphic tees, and I love Mack Weldon sweatpants. They were a sponsor of the show a long time ago, and I kind of just fell in love with them. And I literally probably have 15 pairs of Mack Weldon sweatpants, and just rotate through those. And then a few pairs of shorts. I probably have 20 or 25 sweatshirts that I work with, although I only rotate between probably 5 of them at this point. And I wear my trademark is Adidas shell toes. Anyone who knows me on video back in the day, that you always used to be pointed out. I've probably worn, I must be well over 50 pairs of those at this point. Yeah. Like in my life. I'll buy 2 or 3 or 4 at a time often and just leave them in the closet. So things like that don't change. But brands I like, you know what I really did like, and I did get some really nice clothes from, because they were also a sponsor. And this is funny, like MeUndies sponsored us. I have a bunch of MeUndies. Like anyone sending me clothes, like those are the things I wear. But I really liked Stitch Fix. And they sponsored us for a while, and I did that a few times, and I even did a few times like on my own, and it's pretty good. Like they just send you a assortment of things. Like you make the choices. It's very similar to when I bought my house, and it was it was the spec house in the neighborhood, so it was already built, but no one had lived in it. And they're like, all right, so we can change this view. And I'm like, no, it's good. We'll just take it exactly the way it is. Like you presented it to me. It's good enough. I have no idea what would look better. And so you kind of accept it that way. The only other thing I would say is that I guess in some way, people listening to the shows don't see it, but my earrings are probably my biggest fashion statement still to this day. I have had my earrings in my ears for 22 years without taking them out.
Damn.
And I got them in 2002. And they're rap rock. I always say they're my rap rock earrings. And I've never taken them out, and then they've come back in and then gone away and come back in and gone away in that time. Like as far as like being reasonable and fashionable, but I forget they're even there. They're just like part of my body at this point. You just flick them around, pull them, do whatever you want, twist them. They're just never going anywhere. I don't think so. So that's about as far
Colin,
as
can I clarify? Do you mean you've literally never taken them out? Like even
never. Nope.
Wow.
Wait, not even cleaned them?
No, I mean they clean. They're like a sealed ball bearing, and then you're not gonna be able to see it, but you can just move them around. So I wash them in the shower every day. I wash my ear, and then I turn the earring into the soap or whatever, and do all of that. So
that's crazy.
Okay. Yeah, but I've never removed them. In fact, there have been a few times where they're like, you kind of got to take those out for this thing. I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. And one of them was. Because first of all, I don't even know how to take them out. I was literally, what was I, 18? I'm 39.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little different now. But when I went to get my passport renewed, they were like, "Oh, you got to take those earrings out." And I'm like, "No." And the guy was like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Dude, they're in my last passport. Look at the fucking picture."
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't even know how to take them out. I haven't taken them out. There's really nothing to clean because they're just stainless steel ball bearings. So, but I do think about taking them out sometimes. I think it would be like an interesting picture to just take of them like on the desk, like two circles, like they actually came out of my ear and they're gone. But I feel like it's almost part of my face at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to put little plugs in maybe at some point, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Oh,
but
you want to stretch your ears? Careful.
No. They're already, I mean, these are already pretty high gauge.
Oh,
okay. You can't really tell. I mean, those holes are never going to heal. So just getting little like plugs in them.
Sure.
Instead of having these rings, but maybe they'll come back and be cool again. I don't know. But if you go, anyone who wants to know why I got these, go watch 311's music video for Homebrew and you'll see.
That was the
very
one
quickly
that did it.
Yeah. And, and that's an older video too. I mean, that video came out when I was 10, but that was like the fashion I always wanted to, shaved head with the ball bearing earrings and all that. And so, yeah, that was my shit. And that's basically it. So I mean, I will say this as a postscript, and we talked about it on another topic, although I don't know if any of you guys were there, is like the one balls to the wall fashion move I made was getting a custom suit for my wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it cost an extraordinary amount of money.
Oh,
but
I bet,
it probably cost more money than basically anything I've ever bought combined. But clothes wise. But that thing is, I'm going to wear it again to my mom. I've worn it now twice because I wore it for my wedding and then I wore it to my cousin's wedding, and I'm going to wear it to the Jefferson, which is a really nice, like high fashion kind of like expensive hotel in Richmond for my mom's thing party. And I'll wear it again. I'm trying to get as many wears out of it as possible. But I will admit that I loved that process. The suit is dope.
Yeah.
And if I was in a situation where I had to dress up or whatever, I would probably embrace it like that because, you want to look good or decent or whatever. It's just like, this is kind of my low effort ensemble. But when I got the suit, I got custom shoes made, custom belt. Oh, everything was custom.
Yeah.
And it really, you really do get what you pay for. I will say that.
You're like a custom, your fashion. It's like you make your own shirts. You like having stuff made specifically for you, it seems like. Very
yeah, I have a couple of friends that own screen presses or whatever, and do t-shirts professionally. And so I just pay for the shirt. They like to just fuck around and I gave my friend like a list. I'm like, these are all the shirts I would want to get made. And then he just randomly selects from them and sends them or whatever. And I have a whole new set, dude. I got, from friends at Naughty Dog, I got the Shoreline logo, high res, the terrorist organization or whatever. I'm going to get a shirt from Uncharted 4. I'm going to make, they're like a private military. I'm going to get a shirt made of that. That's the cool thing I like is like, I have random shirts. One of my favorite shirts is the what is the fake corporation in Returnal? I probably have the only.
Yeah.
I got that art from a friend at Housemark too, and I'm like, I probably have the only shirt with this.
Yeah.
Astra
Damn.
Corporation is what it's called, Astra. And I was like, I got a shirt with that Astra logo, and it's so obscure. So I like doing that, especially like one of the shirts I have on the list now is Trioptimum, the evil corporation from System Shock and all that kind of stuff. So I like getting things like that, man. I think it's cool.
It's just all evil corporate
Yeah, all
shirts.
evil corporations. Yeah, even umbrella shirt.
Cobra. Well, another one is Shinra that I'm getting made. Shinra Electric Company. Yeah. Cobra, I have a bunch of those. I have like Cobra Air Force and all these kinds of things. So I love the bad guys in these things. So it's like I don't want to wear. It's funny actually with they're doing a Kickstarter for G.I. Joe's Real American Hero comic book line from 82 to 94, like this huge compendium. And you can actually get a G.I. Joe version of it or a Cobra version of it. And it shows you what they look like and all of that. And then who selected what and the many people who have Kickstarted it. And I Kickstarted it at the Cobra side. And it's like most of the people got the G.I. Joe one, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that's surprising to me, though. You know, it's like, don't you want to be the bad guys in these fictional universes? It's fun, more fun that way.
Do you think you'll keep your earrings in even when you're like 70, like Harrison Ford or some shit?
Yeah, it'll be more obvious even than his. I could see a situation where they just never come out. You know, I made a bunch of alterations to my body when I was like 18 or 19 years old, and then I just live with them forever. Like I got all of my tattoos when I was that age, my earrings and all the rest. You know, you haven't seen it, Brad, but I have Moriarty tattooed on my back in huge letters.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's such like a buy me a Riverside thing. That's what everyone would do from Riverside. Get their family name on their back.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I was very 18 it was 18, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm definitely doing this, you know? And now I'm like, oh, I kind of want that off my back.
One more question for you, Colin.
Sure.
You have $10,000, okay? You're forced to go to a high fashion like brand house or whatever. Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Balenciaga. Where are you going?
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing is like once you get above Joe's jeans and like Lucky's jeans and like these mid tiers, I have no idea where to go from there. I have no idea. You know, I don't know. I'm not even sure I would like any of that stuff, to be honest with you.
Oh, I'm not saying it'd be great or anything like that. I'm just curious where you would go.
I don't know. I mean, if I really
the closest one.
Like, yeah, there's probably one of those is probably each in Richmond or something.
Yeah.
And maybe you drive there and go. But the honest answer is that so like when I moved into my house, I hired someone to just buy all the furniture and like design everything as far as like, I don't know what to buy. I don't give a shit what goes here. What should I get? What will look good? And I think I would just do the same thing.
Sure.
It's like just defer to someone who can dress me. Because it
seems wrong with that.
Do you know that guy that's been going around the last few months on Twitter? He's like the suit guy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I actually have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like the guy that critiques everyone's dressing or whatever. It's like, I can't enter that world. It's too dangerous, you know, because you have guys like this floating around. The lower amount of effort that I put in, the less likely it is you'll be able to make fun of me. So that's kind of where I ended up on that.
It's true.
So I don't even know the difference between those brands. The only like Yves Saint Laurent, I only know that because rappers say YSL.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's like about as close as I get to any of those brands. I have no idea. I did go into a Tiffany's once.
Ooh.
And that was pretty cool, but that's about as far as I've ever gotten into like, and that's obviously like jewelry and.
Oh yeah.
It would be cool to get a Tiffany lamp. I think that would be dope as hell actually. But
a lamp?
Yeah, that was like their big thing in the beginning.
I didn't know that.
Was glass.
Yeah.
And and they're known for like iconic turn of the century, probably 1880s to 1920, 1930. They used to make these and they're like mega expensive, like sometimes tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Holy moly.
Like chandeliers and stuff they had a big hand in.
Right, exactly.
Oh,
and it's all like that's where they got their start before all this other stuff was like glass making or whatever. So that's what I think of when I think of Tiffany, but that's because I'm 80 years old and I watch a lot of Antiques Roadshow.
That's true. That's true. Ben, let's talk about you, man. I've seen your stylish shorts in New York City.
Oh yeah,
that you're forced to wear because someone got your pants wet. Tell me, what's it like for you, clothing wise? What do you go for? How do you approach it? Do you let the wife handle it?
So used to back like in middle school, high school. I would say I dressed a little snappier, but I was always, I was in school in that range where Jinkos and stuff like that were what was in style. I never had any of that stuff. One, because I personally thought it was a little bit silly. But even if I had wanted it, we weren't really in a position where, we could go and drop $150 on a pair of jeans that were going to be tattered in 3 weeks because they're made for you to walk on top of them.
I know, they're ridiculous.
Yeah. So I always was interested. I wanted to chase the kind of clothing trends, but it just wasn't always a possibility for me.
Right.
But what I got really into, because I was super into music, I would go to, I'd say through high school and college, I probably went to at least 2 concerts a week, if not more.
Wow.
And I mean, that's when concerts, the bands I was seeing it was $10 or whatever. So, it was easy to do on a pizza delivery guy's salary. And so for a long time, and all the way probably through college and maybe even a little after college, my main wardrobe was pretty much either Penn State clothing, because I went to Penn State, so I'd get a ton of free stuff for being involved in different things or whatever, and band t-shirts. And I still actually have, I think most of my Penn State stuff is gone that I wore during that era, because I probably wore it out. But most of my like band t-shirts I have them stored, and I probably will never wear them again. But if I dropped a size, I probably could get into a lot of them again.
Cool.
As far as like other stuff, I've just never really been into. I mean, I'm not a Walmart jeans shopper. That's I'm kind of a little above that. Levi's is, if I can help it, probably my minimums. Not always.
Hey, Levi's are quality and timeless.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're not designer or anything, but they're not. Whatever. I don't even.
They're
know
like
what Walmart's
Chuck
brand is
Taylors
called.
from Converse. They'll always be in style.
Speaking of Chuck Taylors, I went through a big Chuck Taylors renaissance. Right, it was along with another renaissance of Chuck Taylors that I didn't know about in like 2005. But I remember buying them, and I had them in every different color, and I was buying them for like $15-$20 at Payless, and then all of a sudden they're like $80, and I quit wearing Chuck Taylors after that, because I just it's like I'm not paying this much more for these shoes. So I guess I've always been more of a practical clothing guy, fashion guy. I like nice clothes. I like to look at people wearing nice clothes. It's just not something that has been that important to me. And I think now, that I'm married, have kids, have other stuff going on, I look at stuff like that and I'm like, I would kind of like that. But I also am like looking at, well, my kids also need clothes.
Right, of course. Yeah.
So it gets a little bit different, I think, with age. And now that I'm a dad, it's kind of excusable for me to wear, a pair of baggy jeans and a hoodie. But most of my clothing since my first out of college job really has been like, so I worked for a college and I was in charge of, a few things, but one of the things I handled was all of our like merchandise that we'd give out to new students. So I was constantly like, my whole wardrobe was just wearing shirts that said Geneva College on it, because that's where I worked. So I just got a bunch of free shirts. And then I owned, now during the time I was in college, I also was part of like our student government, and that was like a suit and tie affair. So I had 4 or 5 nice suits, never probably went to a designer place, never paid, thousands of dollars, hundreds, sure, but never had a super nice suit or anything like that. But I always tried to look nice. And then I had a business, I had a brewery. So then pretty much all of my shirts that came from the brewery. That was kind of my wardrobe, because that's where I worked. Now that I work with Last Stand, probably 80% of my wardrobe. And when I say wardrobe, I have like 10 t-shirts that I just cycle through.
That's right.
I don't really like.
That's right.
Maybe
I have
10
like
t-shirts on a good
I probably
week.
have literally 500 t-shirts, and then cycle through 10 of them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's very much my brand. Absolutely. So it kind of just, I don't particularly. Some people might see me wearing the same. They only see me once a week, and they might see me wearing the same shirt every week. For all you know, I don't keep track of when I wear stuff. I just put on clothes that are comfortable, and I don't want to be dirty or anything, but I don't care if it's stylish, I guess.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's kind of just been that for me. I'm much more of a practical person. I assume if I were just rolling in money, I might go like one step up, and I would have to be rolling in, because I'm way too like, I don't know, my mind, that is not a practical thing to me, and I'm much too practical minded. But if I just had an absorbent amount of money, I might go like one step up in clothing and branding, whatever. But I definitely would never go.
For you.
I think it's
What's
worth
that?
it though, Ben. I was gonna say it's like if you can swing it, like I was the same way with jeans specifically, where I would buy the nicest jeans I would buy were Express jeans, and then I stopped fitting into Express clothes because I'm getting bigger, and like Express is made for skinny European people. So I started to explore other brands, and again, it was like that one step up where I found Lucky's jeans and Joe's jeans, and they really are so much better. I know they're like twice as expensive, but if you put a pair on, I think you'll notice the difference and you'll be like, I think it's probably worth it. You'll feel so much better. I love the Joe's jeans, especially because they stretch.
Yeah.
They're like,
yeah.
And that makes me feel a little bit better about myself, because I'll fit into them a little while longer. So I highly recommend it.
I wear pretty much Levi's, but I wear the Levi's like stretch ones. But then after I wear them for a year, they start to not stretch as much as just expand. Because they just lose that like
they're stretched.
They're stretched already. They've done the stretching. But I'm also like Colin in the sense that currently, like, I don't know. I put on my shoes yesterday to go somewhere, and I was like, "When's the last time I put on these shoes?" Like, it was like 5 or 6 days. I figured out since I've been outside, but I go outside barefoot, or I throw on some like slippers or something, and walk outside in my yard, and so I really don't have a lot of occasion. Now, not to belabor it, but I'll just go into one more thing. Hats.
Yeah.
I used to be, for a long time, I never wore a hat. And then for a while, I was like, having outside jobs or I was working at the brewery. So I was always, brewing beer or doing, whatever work, or maybe I was jumping in the kitchen to fill in for an employee or something. I'd have a hat on. So for a long time, I wore hats, and now I pretty much don't ever wear hats. But sometimes in the summer, I'm outside and I'm wearing a hat because I'm bald and I don't want my head to get burned. And then I come inside and I'm hopping on stream or something, and I don't want to have to go like wash my hair so it doesn't look like a greasy mess that was underneath my hat. So I'm kind of all over the place with hats now. I don't know if I'm a hat guy or not. I don't know that I like. Here's part of it. I don't care. I've been losing my hair since I was like 14 years old. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't matter. It's genetics for me. It doesn't matter. But part of me doesn't want to wear a hat because I don't want other people to think I'm wearing a hat because I'm losing my hair.
To think you're insecure. That is such like a fucking Seinfeld.
I'm not insecure about losing my hair, but I don't want other people to think I'm insecure about people thinking I'm insecure.
Right.
That is very That is a Seinfeldian circumstance if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. Ben, I want you to get hair plugs and just make a hairline up, because if you've lost your hair so long ago, it's kind of like no one knows. Like one day I just want you to appear with a random hairline, if
you want to pay for it, I will do it.
And like all the way up to here, it would be so funny, dude. Like actually, that would be funny as fuck if some person that was just bald and didn't even care forever, and then suddenly just had hair, like real hair again.
I said that very quickly that if you paid for it, I would do it, but I still don't know that I would. But I would not pay for it myself. I can tell you.
No, I've said that's my one, and I've noted this. I've done a few. I don't consider myself a vain person. I don't really consider myself a good looking person, so I don't really give a shit. But there have been a few things that I've done in the past that were vain. Like I got Invisalign because I was, and that was great or whatever. But I would get hair plugs for sure.
Yeah.
Like there's just, my hair is not, I don't know how, but my hair is not thinning.
You got
I
good
have
genetics,
a big forehead, but my hair is just staying around. My brother's hair too. Like Dagan is whenever something bad happens to Dagan, I like immediately, like when Dagan was found to be diabetic, I immediately became obsessed with being diabetic. And to the point where the doctor's like, dude, you don't have diabetes. Like,
if
like the blood test says you're totally fine. Like it's not even close to being diabetic. You're good, like, but the hair thing is the thing I follow with him too, because our dad is balding, like totally. And he looks like Ben Franklin. I always say that. Like he's like,
well, doesn't it
cool?
Doesn't it not come from the?
Yeah, it's like the mother's side,
it comes from your mom's dad apparently, and that if that's true is good, bodes well, because my dad, that's my Italian grandfather, and he had a huge head of hair, and even when he had cancer and was getting chemo, he never lost his hair.
Oh wow,
whoa,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Isn't that weird?
Deep roots there.
Is that
Deep
possible?
Yeah,
roots.
no, it was just weird. Like, because I had assumed he was 12 or I was 12 or 13 when he died, and I remember thinking
12.
like, yeah, he was 12. So it was a fucked up time. He came over. It was different when he came.
That's like his hair's growing out of his brain through his skull through his scalp. That's like
Right,
that's
exactly.
insane.
And I had always assumed that he just wore a wig or something. I don't know like what it was like when he was like as he was getting older and dying, because he had colon cancer, and colon cancer is a bad cancer, obviously, but it's not fatal if you find it early and do something about it. He just never did anything about it.
Mm.
And so it was kind of fatal for him, and he was getting like a lot of these whatever it was, chemo or whatever. And yeah, he just stayed pretty steady,
Crazy.
But that was in I don't know, 96 or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe I was missing something.
So you guys have encouraged me here,
Mhm.
and I'm probably not going to do it, but I'm just curious for the sake of conversation. If I were going to say like, okay, I want to take one step up, if I wanted to make that leap, if I ever need blue jeans again in my life, I don't even know what is one step fashion wise above Levi's.
That's probably where I am, like Lucky's, right? Would you say that that's true, or is that
Kind of. I mean, Levi's can be pretty expensive too.
sure?
They
I
can.
don't know.
Not
Good
if you buy
San
them at
Francisco company.
But if you want jeans, like Levi's are really good jeans. If you want like a jean, actually, like my other pants, I usually buy at like J Crew. Like I have a pair of jeans from J Crew that are pretty nice, and like some of my not jean pants, I'd say there because it's like more expensive, but it's not ridiculously expensive, and the quality is high, so you can tell.
Yeah, I like J Crew.
You guys brought up that thing about paying a little more. I think that's a smart idea with clothes, is paying a little more for something that'll last long and be a good fit. And because, you could buy like a $10 shirt at H&M or something, and it may just be a piece of shit in like fray or something in like a week or two. So be careful think about that when you buy clothes. I've bought a lot of cheap clothes and I just regret it because they turn out to be shit.
Dude, you get, I am a true believer in life that you get what you pay for.
Yeah,
like,
often.
It's almost never not the case. Like really,
the Fire Festival.
Oh, yeah, that's true. There are going to be all sorts of anomalies, I assume.
Very specifically good point.
The exception.
But the Fire Festival was an example of not getting what you paid for sure. But I just feel like sometimes you regret it, I guess, especially when you have less money when you're younger or whatever. But just spending a little more on whatever you're doing, the food you're eating,
generally
the clothes you're wearing, even the way you listen to music, or like the way you subscribe to things, like all that kind of stuff. I do really believe you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
All the money I would spend on clothing goes to food, because we that is one thing we don't really sacrifice on, is we try to get good food and
nutrition,
good for you, and also made good, made well.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, you're in a different situation, because you're a dad. You got a family to take care of.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, but some of it's laziness too, if I'm going to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. We're all a little lazy.
Yeah.
Gun to your head, Ben. $10,000. Where are you going? Which high fashion thing you going to?
Give me 5 choices, because I don't know them.
Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Chanel, Balenciaga, Prada.
I'm going to go with Balenciaga, because I can't think of a single piece of clothing I know that is from there. So I'm going to go with the one that I'm most blind on.
Are there any American high fashion houses?
I don't know. That's a good question, Colin. I'm not
it's
sure.
kind of insulting. Like, why?
Like European.
It's like,
right?
oh, Italian. It's like, who gives a shit?
You get a shirt from. You can get a shirt from a T-shirt from Gus's world famous fried chicken.
Yeah.
You get your T-shirt from the weird places in New York City that sell souvenirs, but you don't know how they stay open.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
and they're open at like 4 in the morning.
One. I didn't know Coach was American.
Oh, Coach.
That's
okay.
Pretty. Wait, Gucci's American? I didn't know that either.
Maybe it was bought by an American. Is that true?
I don't know. I'm just looking on Google.
I don't think Gucci was American, but maybe the company is American.
I could see them naming it Gucci to give it some kind of foreign gravitas, even though it's American. That's very believable to me.
Yeah.
Like maybe Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like mega high fashion, but that he.
I mean, there's a ton of like American brands like Tommy Hilfiger and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, I used to have some Tommy Hilfiger corduroys. They were the shit.
Oh, sure. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. That was
damn, corduroys.
Yeah.
Speaking of corduroys, that's Chris. Chris, dude. What's up? What do you do for clothing? I know you got a little bit of style going on. I noticed it. Where do you go when you want clothes, man?
It's so difficult for me to find clothes, specifically because I'm just like, I am such a strange build. Like I'm very thin, I'm very short. My torso is long. So like my jean size is like my jean size is 29. Like 29 waist, 29 length, which is like that's like you can't find.
I've never
that.
even heard of that.
No, it's insane.
You have such a skinny waist. You're so lucky.
It's insane because I can't find. And so when I find jeans that do fit, I hold on to them for dear life, and I wear those things out to hell and high. Like there's no. I think Cotton On is the place that I've been able to find like relatively consistent, where I'm able to find like, okay,
is that like QAnon?
Yeah, it's a little bit like QAnon.
Yeah,
it's there's a store called Q, and I can't not think about that every time I walk by it.
Yeah, because QAnon is led by the guy named Q. No one knows who Q is.
Right. Yeah. But so fashion has always been like a frustration point for me, or when I started caring about it, which is probably like high school. Like you're not really that aware about fashion. I think generally when you're a lot younger, you're a kid, you're just happy to, especially because I went to Catholic school for like such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had our uniforms, you know, we had like the slacks and we had like a kind of a yellowish polo that we would wear with like the Catholic school logo on it. And that was it. And on gym days, it would be sweatpants instead of slacks. So like I didn't have to think about my outfit until like 7th grade, which was jarring because I was like, wait, what do I remember I didn't like jeans. Jeans like freaked me out. I didn't like how they felt. It was like, oh my God, these are so uncomfortable compared to slacks, which is insane. But yeah, so I was kind of late to a lot of that and trying to figure stuff out. But I think I remember really early on getting into like punk aesthetic. So I had a lot of band tees. I had a lot of frayed clothes. I had slim jeans. And at a certain point, I still wear slim jeans, but like at a certain point, I remember I had skinny jeans for a while. Converse I still have to this day. I love those shoes. There's something about those. There's something about, but at the same, like when they're new Converses, they look wrong though. Like when they're
they gotta be beat up a little bit.
When they're brand new, it's almost like it's almost like a flashbang. Like the white parts of the Converse, it's crazy. It's crazy how bright those are. But yeah, so that was like early on. And then I realized that like I really took to jackets. I really like a nice jacket.
Same.
I like Calvin Klein jackets a lot. Like they used to, or at least they used to have. Like I used to go to Calvin Klein for a lot of like, and I would pair a lot of stuff. So I would have like, an under kind of jacket, and then I would pair that with like something to go over. And that was a lot of fun. I liked pairing those kinds of things. And that was very easy to do in New York, where it was like freezing for like a reasonable amount of the time. And then I moved to California and I was like, I don't know how to dress for this climate at all. All of my stuff would have me sweating, or like just none of it worked. I only had like band tees or graphic tees or things like that. And eventually I kind of found, and to be fair to H&M, like they do have this specific shirt that I like, and I buy in bulk every time I can find it, which is like this, like, I don't even know what it's called. I just know it when I see it. I know when I touch the fabric, it's like, oh, I know what this is. It's like a slim fit kind of form fitting kind of tight, either black or just white or just like a solid color, or like a heathered kind of two-tone type thing. I like heathered clothes for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
Those do a lot for me, but I don't know. I've recently gotten into this kind of trend of like, okay, it's getting hot in California again, because it was kind of chilly for the last couple months, actually. And so I found a combo that kind of works. I have these kind of short sleeve overshirts, but they have like holes in them, like they're like kind of sheer. And then I have like a tank top or a wife beater. I don't know why we call them wife beaters, by the way. So something we should really maybe think about that a little bit.
Really, I mean, whatever. I think it's a funny term that like has never gone away.
It's funny, but I don't understand how
it's
like,
still stayed.
Yeah, like
in 2024, people get offended about everything, and it's still around.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's fascinating to me that's like it's still a wife beater, and also like, why did like who decide, like no other clothing is that. Like no other, like nothing is like I'm gonna wear my pig kickers today, or like there's there is nothing else. It's, I don't know, but
I can tell you've never lived in Western Pennsylvania, because if you see some guys here, you're like, yeah, that's a wife beater, and he's wearing a wife beater.
Yeah,
Like, you
exactly.
get it. Yeah.
Very Appalachian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's I don't know. I like all sorts of stuff. I try to experiment a lot with clothes just because I really don't know what works for me. And it's difficult for me to find. I go thrifting a lot. And that kind of helps sometimes because sometimes I'll be able to find something like weird that actually fits.
Yeah.
But even that's even that's tricky just because my, just my frame and my build is so strange. But I love suits.
Mhm.
I love a suit. Any excuse that I have to wear a suit, I will often take just because there's something, I don't know. I'm really comfortable in a suit. I don't know what it is exactly. I have like a handful. None of them are complete, by the way. It's all like hodgepodge mess, but like I somehow figure out to make it work. I think the only suit that I have that is complete, like top to bottom, is like I have this pink suit that I got for Creator Clash, which is like nothing. It's nothing special. It's not like custom or like specifically like tailored, but like it just looks. I like the way it looks, and I have those red corduroy pants that everybody gave me shit about at one of the Sacred Symbols lives, and I have bright pink shirts.
Wait,
and
people gave you shit about those pants?
Well,
Why?
I'm being facetious. It's not real. Like some people were like, "What's with the red pants? Those are so red." And I'm like, "You ain't seen nothing.
You ain't seen
I had a-
nothing. You
I had a
bums.
pair, dude. I had a pair of pants that were so red it was like Gears of War. And it
Blood,
was
yeah.
just like
Gears of War
like
red.
just flat. Like you could not miss me. But I like that stuff generally, and just
Cool.
trying to. I try to add more color. I've tried to add more color since I moved here because I realized at a certain point it was like all browns and beiges and blacks and whites.
Yeah.
It's just what happens in New York. It's just like kind of like it's very easy to coordinate. It looks good, but I have like pastel hoodies and like purple and pink and red and all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. I will say, Ben, you brought up hats.
Yeah, you're a hat
love-
guy.
I do like hats, specifically patrol caps. And I know that's like very specific. I don't know what it is about the shape of the patrol cap where it's
Is
like,
that the military type cap that you wear?
That's the military type cap. Yeah, I had a lot more of them. I don't know what the hell happened to some. I'm sure some of them just kind of wore
Those
out
were
the
in
shape.
style for a hot minute. I remember, like in the
I-
mid 2000s, probably.
I don't even remember. I just know my dad wore them, and I liked because he's in the military, and I remember he would come home with like all sorts of like military like stuff, like clothes,
Yeah.
and like so I had some camo stuff. I remember I had like pants that were like BDUs that I would wear sometimes. But I don't know, man. The shape of the patrol cap is like really, I love it. Like there's like, I think it shapes it complements my face. My face is very sharp and like angular, and so like I think having a hat that's also kind of like sharp instead of like domed like works well. I like the silhouette. People often it's weird coming from the YouTube space because I never really had a consistent outfit, but fans would draw, they would do fan art and stuff. And I would see other people's perception of me through this fan art because they would draw me in like specific outfits. And it was interesting. Like people would always draw me in a patrol cap and a tank top. Or like they would draw me with like specifically like a jean vest, a red and black kind of flannel, and it's like, oh, this is kind of like my outfit to these to
Right.
outward, and to the point where like sometimes we're in videos I would like intentionally try to dress like a little bit more like the way that people would draw me, which is like a very strange influence. Like I had like that combo of like the blue jean vest and the red and black flannel I had for a hot minute, and I would intentionally like wear it if I was gonna film something. It's like, okay, I'm gonna wear this. It's like this is iconic to some people apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Chris, you mentioned the patrol cap. There was a little while where I was, and I got them in Ireland, but I was really into like the Irish caps. I don't know what they're really called. That's what everybody calls it, Irish cap. I'm trying to think of the right name for them. Either way,
Oh yeah, I'll find it.
like at
Yeah.
some
oh
point-
yeah, I
wears
know
them.
these. These
Yeah.
are like the my dad has a couple of these. There's like Newsies or something. Like
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but at some point I became aware of the meme that like fat bearded guys wear them, and I was like, I don't want to wear these anymore.
And you were like working at a brewery too, dude. Yeah.
Yeah,
You were the meme.
yeah, that became the meme.
I like those
accident.
hats too. I like those. I never looked good in those hats, but I liked those hats.
I don't know if I
Like,
look
it's
good at them. I just like them. Yeah, I've never
Yeah,
cared if
yeah.
I look good as long as it's comfortable and I like it.
I will say the only piece of custom clothing I have, and I've always I love Colin's idea of like having like these custom, because there's a bunch of stuff that I would want to have made, and then I sit down to think about it, and I'm like, whatever. But I did the only bit of custom clothes that I have outside of like a tailored suit, I guess, is I have a hat it's an ODST hat. And that's the only.
Oh yeah,
that's the only hat. That's the only thing I have that's even really custom. Like that hat doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Unless you like ask for it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like hats.
Legendary hat, yeah. Chris.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Colin. I was going to wrap it up. But
Oh yeah, I was
ahead
just going to say a few postscripts. It's funny. Most people don't know this about me, but from probably age 9 or 10 to age 24, 25, I wore a Yankee hat every day. And that was like part of my uniform. And
I think.
Yeah, like I was a huge Yankees fan as a kid, and just the same one that Chris is wearing now. And it would, I would wear these for years. I think I basically had 3 hats that entire time, and I had I went to college in the early 2000s, so obviously everyone had the really mega curled brim with the frayed front and all of that. Yeah. I went to actually I was in Anaheim or in Costa Mesa, where my college girlfriend ended up moving. And we were still dating a little bit after college, and I went down there and I lost it somewhere. Ooh. And that's why I stopped wearing it. So that was probably would still be part of my uniform. Very similar to how I wore a wallet chain until 11th grade, and my wallet got stolen, ironically, from my gym locker.
Or your
and
glasses.
Then I just stopped wearing a wallet chain, so that kind of stuff often happens to me. And Jenkos, Ben, you brought up Jenkos, like my parents wouldn't buy them for me either, and I think I dodged a bullet with those.
Yeah,
I've never had any. Yeah, I dodged a bullet. Thank God.
Dude, you said glasses, Ben. Glasses as a fashion choice has always been stressful for me.
I met Colin lost his glasses, and that's when he quit wearing them, isn't it?
Yeah, I lost I lost them.
Right.
I had a pair. I've had many pairs of glasses, but I had a pair of glasses that I loved.
Yeah.
And I left them in a cab in New York City, and then I stopped wearing glasses.
That was it. Yeah.
Well, sorry, Chris, I cut you off there.
No, I was just saying, like, I've had the same frames or the same type generally frames for like 12 years, I think, at this point. Because I it is so integral to my face that I cannot possibly fuck around. And the thing that sucks about it is like my prescription is so strong that like I can't just try on new glasses and know how I'll look.
Right.
At all. Because like my face literally distorts in the lenses.
Yeah.
So
you gotta take a video or something.
Literally. Yeah. I have to like edit my this part of my face smaller in Photoshop and there's no it's so unreasonable. And I remember I got these frames specifically, these angular like kind of like square frames, because I used to wear circle, or like not circle, but like oval kind of like more traditional glasses in like elementary school. And it was around the time of like Harry Potter and shit. So everybody would be like, "Oh, Harry, hello," and I had like a scar on my forehead too, which does not help.
Yeah.
So like it was just I cannot do this. Braces
awesome.
too, or something. Braces were another thing too. Where it's like, I know it's not a fashion choice specifically, but it does affect how you look. And I remember being like, it was like, listen, my parents were like, "Hey, should we get you braces?" And I said, with all due respect, I know that I'm the child here, and I have no say. I will literally kill myself if you. Like, I am not. I already can't see. I'm already small and scrawny. I am not adding braces to this equation. Like I will not survive.
Well, how old were you when they asked you this?
I don't know. I was young. Like probably like
most kids probably had braces, right?
Yeah.
Not where I was.
No, they did where I was too. But the fucked up thing with me was I didn't need them, and then my wisdom teeth all came in, and they're not impacted, so they never needed to come out. But everything shifted up just a little bit, crowding my teeth a little bit, and by that point I was like 19, 20, and you're not getting braces at that point. And this was like pre-Invisalign or like very proto Invisalign. Because dude, the funny thing, I love Invisalign. I highly recommend it. Recommend it. It's so funny how much people used to suffer with Invisalign and how much easier it has become with these same exact technology. So what I mean by that is, back in the day, you used to have to wear your trays. They would say like, wear your tray for 3 weeks. And then you switch to the next tray, and then you switch to the next tray. Then they're like, we can get away with it in like 2 weeks. And so you switch and then they're like, actually, you need like 10 days. Actually, you need 7 days. Actually, you need like 5 days. And now people are cycling through them sometimes in under a week each tray. And I find that so funny because the regimen I was on was 6 months and it would have been a year and a half if like under the old rules, and you didn't really need to wait that long. So it sucks that happened. But now it's like so easy, and dentists are so eager to do it because they make good money on it or whatever. So, but I probably would have gotten braces if not for like the wisdom teeth coming in so late, you know?
Yeah, I feel bad for people with wisdom teeth. I'm really glad I dodged that somehow.
Wait, you don't have wisdom teeth?
I was.
Oh, whoa.
I was born
They're
without
being
them.
selected out, I think.
I remember specifically going to the dentist because like I had like a toothache, and my parents were like, "Oh, it's probably his wisdom teeth coming in," and then they did like an X-ray in my mouth. It was like, "You don't have these," and my parents were freaked out.
Yeah, I was so confused when the dentist told me. He's like, "Yeah, you don't," because I think my dad had just gotten his out or something, or I had heard a story or whatever.
Yeah,
I asked my dentist, and he was like, "Yeah, you're not going to have them," and I was like, "What do you mean? Like you're supposed to have those teeth?" He's like, "No, it's fine. You're fine." Okay,
yeah. Interesting.
But most people where you went to school had braces.
A lot of kids did, yeah.
Yeah, most
if you needed
most
them,
kids I knew had braces.
I knew people that didn't need them, you know?
Yeah, some kids don't need them, but
that's what I'm saying. It's like I felt like I really like my bottom row is like a little fucked. It's like a little like, but like you're never like that never comes into play if I'm speaking or like. So what the fuck do I care really? Like,
yeah, and your mouth also shrinks as you get older, I think, right? So like you're gonna have crowding like everyone's teeth are gonna start crowding, like yeah. And you're going to have to like maintain them. My mom got Invisalign in her 70s because of that, you know?
I had braces on my top teeth because my front like 4 teeth were really spread apart. And I got braces on my front on the top row, but they were like, well, your bottom row, you could use them. You don't absolutely need them. But because my jaw is like slightly off of where they wanted it to be. And they were like, but we'd want to wait until you were an adult and your everything stops moving. And then what we would do is we would break your jaw and wire it shut.
Great.
And I was like, yeah, I'm never doing that. That's never as an adult, especially, you're definitely not breaking my jaw.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah, well, braces are good for like overbites too.
Yeah,
for stuff like that. Like I think mine got fixed from that and stuff. But yeah. Fucking wild.
Aren't you supposed to? Aren't you technically supposed to have an overbite? Like, isn't that like the natural?
To an extent,
there's a degree of it.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want like huge, crazy,
like Guts Man.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want anything crazy like that. But yeah, a little bit. Yeah, is normal. Chris, gun to your head. Which high fashion house are you going to? $10,000.
Oh man, yeah. This is kind of one of those things where it's like I wish I had a good answer because I've never even thought about like what.
I mean, it's a very unrealistic thing for pretty much most people.
Yeah, I've never. I don't know. It would be taking a shot in the dark, but like I think I remember seeing. This might be cheating, but I'm looking this up.
That's okay.
We
can say
just to see if I can remember.
You're from New York, you got tons to choose from.
What were the options again? What'd you say?
I mean, just anything. I just named some. I mean, you can go to Saks Fifth Avenue if you want. Prada, Gucci.
Yeah. I'd probably try.
Chanel.
I'd probably see what's going on with. I feel like Chanel is understated enough that I feel like I wouldn't mind. Like I feel like I don't hear about that a lot.
Chanel,
like in comparison to like I feel like Gucci's the meme. You know, Prada. There's like the devil wears it or something. Chanel's like kind of.
I think Chanel is one of the most classic ones, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Jean's a Gucci man. I know he's got Gucci slippers.
Oh, you know,
he likes.
I've always wanted a nice watch.
Nice watch? Oh,
like a
okay.
Traditional. Like
you want like a Rolex or something?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
I like a watch.
That's another Antiques Roadshow influence for me is like all the watches. I don't know anything about those.
Yeah.
The best watch I have is a Bloodborne watch.
Oh, yeah.
That's about it.
The best watch I've ever owned is outside of the Apple Watch that I have, I guess, is I got a Reptar watch from a cereal box, I think.
That's pretty cool.
I was there when you ordered that watch, Brad. You were very excited.
Yeah, I was excited. I had to buy it.
Yeah.
Sony licensed Bloodborne out for everything, but not just a new game or a remaster.
Yeah.
Pathetic.
All right. Are you satiated and satisfied?
I'm satiated. Yes. Thank you.
Very well. Very well. All right, Ben, let's go to you next.
Okay. Well, last time, I think a couple weeks ago when I was on Constellation, I said something offhand and I was like, we could have a whole topic about that. and it was somewhat. All I wrote down in my notes, because I keep anytime I think of a topic for Constellation, I write it down in a notepad thing because I won't remember it. And all I wrote down was idioms. So I don't remember exactly where I was going with it, but I still thought the idea was interesting because I think most people, probably use some sort of idiom all the time. You know, we don't necessarily always know why we say it. We don't always know where it came from, but we know what it means. You know, when you hear drop of a hat, you know that means like start right now, or like ready to go. And, you know, for instance, that came from literally they would start races by dropping a hat back in the early 1900s. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about a few, see if you have any interesting ones you use or like any that you were like really surprised to know where it comes from. I think one of the questions I asked in the email was, has anyone actually seen a chicken run around with its head cut off to know what that looks like? And no, probably most of us haven't, but we know what that means still.
I have actually seen that.
You have actually seen that? Yeah.
I literally, it's really upsetting.
We got chickens a couple
where did
weeks
you
ago.
see that?
In the Bronx.
Interesting.
We have chickens, but I don't think my wife would be very happy if I cut one of their heads off.
Whoa, you have chickens? Whoa, what the fuck? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we just got them like probably about a month ago.
I'm jealous, dude.
Damn,
Oh.
you're
You
fascinating.
can't have them in our neighborhood.
Yeah. I can't say that I have chickens. I helped my
Right.
I paid for all the stuff and helped my wife build like the enclosure for them. But they're not my chickens.
Yeah, you house chickens.
Yeah,
Chickens
right.
live on
Really?
the property that I
You're
own
putting them up.
legally.
yeah, putting the chickens
You're putting
on.
them up.
Do you like the chickens?
Which is an idiom, by the way.
Yes, that's true. Do I like
you-
the chickens?
Do you tolerate them?
I have no preference. They don't cause any trouble. They don't really make noise. I keep whenever my wife and kids were like trying to figure out names for them, because we're gonna have them for like laying chickens, you know, to get eggs, not butcher chickens. And they were like trying to come up with names for them, and I kept annoying them like with, I hate puns, but I just kept throwing out puns. Like they were like, "What should we name this one?" And I was like, "Hennifer Lawrence," and they were like, "What are you talking about?" I don't know. It just sounded funny to me. Just name it something. But anyway, back to idioms. Colin, you're also a lover of language, as I am, and more of a lover of grammar probably than I am, but still, we probably have some, and I do like grammar, but we probably have some similarities there.
Oh, God,
Any
people's
idioms that
grammar
you
just
like?
bothers me. It just bothers me so much, but that's a whole other topic. Go ahead.
I know. Speaking of that, okay, that is a whole other topic, but in case I'm not here, my dad, when I was a kid, every time I said something wrong, because he was like an English major, he would just correct me and not let me progress without saying it correctly. And then if I wanted to know what something meant, he'd make me look it up and figure it out. And I hated that. And I still don't know that but I find myself doing that with my kids because I'm like, that helped me so much learn how to speak and how to know what things were.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it wasn't the best method. I don't know, but it worked either way. So, but anyway, Colin, some idioms. I know you use a lot of phrases, probably some that you picked up from family or whatever as a kid and just ran with. Are there any that are your favorites that you've heard other people say and not knowing that they meant, but you not know where it came from, but you knew what it meant, etc.?
Yeah, actually, it's funny you say this because I have a very, you know how you have just like random memories of very random things that don't really mean anything, but you kind of think about it sometimes. I had a friend at IGN, Ryan Geddes, and I remember walking in from lunch with him into the IGN's old building in Brisbane, and we were talking about like, don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I know that term. I knew that term. But I was like, and he was explaining to me like, and everyone knows that, I guess I just didn't know. It's like, yeah, like you would kind of judge a horse's age and health or whatever by its, by its teeth. And so someone giving you a horse, it's like, well, you don't want to examine it for its health. It's free. It's like, you take, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And that is like a spark moment for me in my mind where I'm like, oh, everything does have some sort of etymology. And that's the thing I'm really interested in is like, idioms are cool, but like the etymology of where these things actually come from is interesting as well. And we'd have a lot of them in our family that we say. One we say all the time is 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah.
And to the point where it is shortened in my family, like totally shorthand for many, like my entire life, 6 of one.
Yep.
Like that's like what people will just say that, oh, it's 6 of one. It's like, okay, you don't even have to say the rest of it, Very, you know, and my mom's very Long Island Italian. A 6 of 1. God
Mhm.
forbid. You know,
God forbid.
God forbid. We say that all the time too, like because my mom was like, God
forbid.
forbid. You know, or a Madone. You know, like it's like, oh my
Madone?
god, yeah, it's Madonna. Like, you know,
Oh,
Madone.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Madone. Yeah, like for some reason, because my grandparents were obviously Italian, so on my mom's side, like that generation's off the boat Italian, and they never taught my mom. Like that was, and we've talked about this in the past in other contexts. Like that was from the era when immigrants were very self-conscious and didn't want you to be Italian, so they never even taught them Italian. They didn't want them to speak it, and so they just dragged a bunch of words from that generation into our generations, I guess. So we still say random things like very weird, like calamari is galamad, mozzarella is mozzarella,
Calamari.
and like people will say it like that still. Like my mom will not call, like she's like, oh, you want some galamad? And that's just like a random thing that she pulled from. So it's all fucking broken or whatever. So when I saw your topic, Ben, I went up and looked up a list of things, and I was like, what do I say that are common idioms? And some of them are pretty funny, like Achilles heel. I use that term a lot. And Pyrrhic victory, I use that term a lot as well. Those are both historical idioms. I love the drop of a hat, crossing the bridge when you come to it.
Yeah.
Sort of. One I say a lot is bigger fish to fry. I say that a lot.
Yeah.
So things like beyond the pale.
Yeah.
It's just so funny because I'm so glad you brought up dropping of the hat, because it is funny. Like, what was it about that when they brought in flags or electronics or whatever the case might be, they're like, we're going to keep saying this.
Right.
That's like what's so interesting, because obviously every generation at every moment has a shit ton of these that don't move on. It's kind of how I still use the term sick.
Yeah.
That is an antiquated term. Like that's not a word that normal people and children use anymore, but it's something that I'll do they?
No, I said it will date you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said they do. I was like, oh, yeah. In my opinion,
you're in
it
your
will
30s if you're saying it.
Right, exactly. But if you say, I'll cross that bridge when you come to it, you can be like a 10-year-old. You know exactly what that means. I don't know why we say it. I don't know what about that sticks around while the word sick goes away or whatever.
Right.
So like, or I guess things like burying the hatchet. It's an interesting and pretty violent like idiom about not killing someone or like not taking revenge or being violent or whatever. It's funny. I don't know. Silver linings. Stuff like that. Pieces of cake.
Spill the beans.
Spill the beans. Shooting the breeze. It's very interesting.
Where does silver lining come from?
Let me see here. I have a list up.
The etymology of that one's pretty interesting, I feel.
I use silver lining.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't say. It just says how to use it. Yeah, that's not going to work for me. Or I think I don't know a lot of idioms come from Ben Franklin.
I think a fair amount do, but I think part of it was he just formalized them and wrote them down.
Right.
They may not have been his, but
like a penny for your thought is his, right?
I think so. Yeah.
And stuff like that. Yeah, because of Poor Richard or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, there are a bunch of. I have a shit ton of lists up here of all of the different ones, and there's just there is a million of them getting out of hand.
Right.
Obviously, break a leg. I do use that a lot.
Yeah.
Bite the bullet. That's another one that's violent about pre-anesthetic surgery. You know, that never went away. We still just say you got to bite the bullet.
It's interesting that stuff remains, but like hand signals kind of change. Like how this used to be like take a call, and now like kids do this.
Oh
yeah.
That's changed completely. But like we still say like bite the bullet as if anybody is, as if our parents even did that.
Because bullets are cool.
Bullets are sick.
Yeah.
A few other ones, I guess, Ben, like speak of the devil.
Yeah.
Speak of the devil, I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Under the weather.
Yeah. Under the weather. That's a boat one, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speak of the devil.
Are there any others in my notes here? It's raining cats and dogs. I mean, it's so funny. On thin ice.
Where does the cats and dogs one come from? I don't know about that. I don't
Yeah.
know. I've heard.
Yeah,
I've obviously
I could go on
used
and on
that
about
before.
This is a
but
great topic. I could go
Yeah,
on
this
and
is
on about
awesome.
it. There's a method to the madness.
Yeah.
Method to the madness.
Imagine
I like let the cat out of the bag because like I don't know what the hell that could possibly like what situation is that?
Well, if a cat gets in the bag and you let it out, there's going to be hell. I don't know why the cat was in the bag in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
That's the confusing part.
like you're capturing the cat. I think like you're letting the cat out of the bag because it's a captured cat. That was
Yeah.
doing something bad. Yeah, I think it's about the rage. The ball's in your court, Ben.
Actually,
Damn.
it's now in Brad's court.
Oh,
I'm passing it.
fair enough.
What, like my favorite idioms or whatever?
Well, yeah. I mean, or just your thoughts about them, like.
Oh,
I don't know.
I like never really thought about this at all.
But
It's
that's
just
part
something.
So I think that. Sorry, not to. I'm going to
No,
take the
no,
ball
go
back
ahead.
for a second. I'm stealing it. That's part of what's interesting too. Kind of like your thing with fashion. The other night when
Yeah.
you pitched, you like said fashion to me, and I was like, I don't care about fashion. You're like, that's interesting. I think
Mhm.
also the fact that like we use idioms without ever thinking about where they came from, even to the point where some of us mispronounce them,
Yeah.
or like we say the wrong words. Like on The Office, where Michael Scott says, "Cut off his face, cut off his nose to spider face." You know, like that character didn't know where that's obviously a character, but he didn't know where that came from, but he knew what he was trying to say. So
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead, Brad. Though.
That's such,
Continue.
such a
Yeah.
dumb line.
I like never really thought about like the term idiom before, like classifying all these things we say. That's very interesting. But it's like I say a lot of these all the time. One of my favorites is miss the boat. I love using miss the boat,
Mhm,
especially
yeah.
about a game. Someone's like, "Oh, you got to play this or whatever." You're like, "Yeah, I missed the boat on it. It's over. I'm not going to it." But I don't know. It is a fascinating thing. Like, why the fuck do we say this kind of shit? It's so weird that just what stays throughout like history. Like you're saying, our grandparents use and our parents use. Like break a leg. How does that mean good luck? That seems like the exact opposite. That doesn't even fucking make sense to me.
Yeah,
That's
that must
yeah.
come from like the irony of it, right? There must be like a
Break a
specific
leg.
story about that. Yeah, of like intentionally tempting fate, like reverse engineering
Yeah.
the bad luck
You're-
that will wait you or whatever.
Your guess is as good as mine. Is one I didn't even like think about as being an idiom or anything like that. To me, that's like just something you fucking say. I don't know. It's
Right,
so
yeah.
weird.
It's I feel like I feel like a sizable percentage of our conversations are probably made up of these things.
Yeah.
Like a not probably obviously not like a majority, but like a percentage that's high enough to be like, oh shit, because they're just they're really useful.
Yeah.
I looked up break a leg, and this is the first result on Google, so you know it's true.
Yeah,
But it is from
Did Google-
a theater
did Google
company.
Gemini tell
It's
you?
not Google Gemini. No, it's the first result. It says, in early days of theater, this is where ensemble actors were cued to perform. If actors were, which is the leg line, if actors were not performing, they had to stay behind the leg line, which also meant they wouldn't get paid. If you were to tell the actor to break a leg, you were wishing them the opportunity to perform and get paid. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I'm going to go with that now forever.
That
Yeah, that
sounds
sounds-
that
that
sounds
sounds
awesome.
legitimate.
I love that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Add insult to injury is one that's funny too.
That's
I don't know,
good.
Ben. This is a fascinating topic. I'm just like really thinking about all this stuff I like never thought about before. 2 peas in a pod.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like, what is this? But it's
Chris-
like a lot of these are good sayings. A lot of
Yeah.
them are great.
Hmm.
For sure. Chris, not to bring up your corduroy pants again, but I like the one fly by the seat of your pants, which was literally when they were early days of flying, they had nothing to go by but how their butt felt on the seat, how it felt to be in there. So do you think your corduroy pants?
I think
Be
those
an
would have killed
That's
me.
just a way to transition to you, by the way. I don't really care about your
Yeah,
corduroy.
no, I think those
I
would
don't
have
give a shit about your pants.
those would have killed me probably. But yeah, there's a lot like the by the skin of your teeth. I think is one that I say a lot. Pull the wool over someone's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's so many that pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
These are like it's interesting how many of these are just like really ingrained into my lexicon without even really thinking about it. But I don't. Earworm is a fun one. There's one that the elephant in the room.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
That's probably my favorite. I think that's probably like if I was really like thinking about it, like that's probably that and like cold turkey, like quitting cold turkey. Because I still really don't know what that means. But I've said it. I've said it like a million times, and everybody kind of understands.
Definitely.
I know what it
turkey.
means.
It's like a deli meat.
Yeah, I like cold turkey too. Like, what do you mean? But the one that I don't know where I picked this one up, but I say this a lot, and I don't know if this is common at all, but I've I picked it up from like a family member or something. But like, I think my uncle used to say whenever he was calling somebody crazy, he'd be like, "You're out of your gourd, my guy."
Mm-hmm.
And
He'd
out
say
of your
my
gourd,
guy?
he would say my guy. I've continued with my guy. I've kept my guy going. But you're out of your gourd is so.
Yeah,
There's something funny about that I like. But yeah, I don't know. There's probably like 8 million of these. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
We
going
can
to jump
just
in
pick one
here.
up.
I in preparation for this, I did look up foreign idioms because one of the things that I think is so funny is that, and I understand this. Just I don't really. I took French forever, but I wouldn't consider myself a French speaker, especially anymore. But as I understand, learning English as a second language, a major challenge is like for people is how it's used because it's very abstract in a lot of different ways. And so idioms in our language are nonsensical to a lot of people. And likewise, idioms in their languages are also nonsensical because when you think about things like frying fish or whatever, it's like, so I looked up some interesting ones that I thought were funny that if this is what they would be if they were literally translated. There's a German idiom translated is "you have tomatoes on your eyes," and it means you are not seeing what is like right in front of you. That's like what people would say to you if you're like not seeing things clearly.
Tomatoes.
There's another German one that says that's translated to "I only understand the train station," and that means that like you don't understand anything that the person is saying to you.
Okay.
There's a Swedish idiom that's "sliding in on a shrimp sandwich." This means that you got where you are without working for it, which I thought was pretty fascinating. There's a Latvian one. That person blows little ducks, and it means to lie.
They do what to ducks?
Blowing little ducks, like blow little ducks.
Okay.
There's a few French ones. I remember some of these actually. So this is the one I was looking for. The idiom in French that would be like crying over spilled milk is "the carrots are cooked."
Oh, okay.
That like what has happened cannot change. Russian, you would say if you do something hastily or haphazardly, it says here, you're galloping across Europe. And if you did something wrong and you know it and you have a heavy conscience about it, the thief has a burning hat is the Russian idiom for that. So it's cool. Like these exist, obviously, I mean, naturally in every language, but it's funny how they don't like, this is something in Portuguese, here it says in Portuguese, if you pay the duck, it means you take the blame.
Okay.
Like it's so funny, you know,
Pay the duck as opposed to blowing it.
Right. You don't blow the duck, you pay the duck in this one.
Okay.
So the duck's getting,
You're
paying the duck and you're blowing the duck.
Yeah.
Dang. That's
Some
a bad
people do
business
pay for
model
that.
for the duck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other interesting ones?
Neck of the Woods is a
Oh yeah.
is a good one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I like handle with kid gloves, you know
Right,
that
right.
one?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I've used
literally goat skin gloves. Used to
Yeah,
make
it's
gloves
interesting.
out of them.
Thick as thieves.
Mm.
I like that one. Fat Chance.
My my grandfather had a lot of these that my dad obviously adopted and has still said. I don't know that I say a lot of them, but one I remember my grandpa saying when I was a kid. I would ask him like, "How long are we going to be here? How long is it? Whatever," and he'd always respond with, "Well, it's longer than a piece of rope." And my obvious question was, "Well, how long is the piece of rope?" And he'd say, "As long as it needs to be." It was just basically his way of telling me like, be patient.
Yeah.
But it was just. It could have meant like this is going to be a really long time that we're here, or not. Longer than a piece of rope. That's one I do say that one occasionally.
Nice.
All right. Are you satisfied and satiated?
Yes, I would like to make this conversation not be as long as a piece of rope.
All right. Fair enough.
Nice. Good closer.
Okay, Chris, it's your turn.
Exciting. So my topic is lore.
Ooh.
I wrote this in, I was thinking, because I'm specifically like, I'm very in and out of this kind of thing. Like there are some games that I really, or even just like media in general, it doesn't have to be games, but like, I guess you can approach this from whatever angle you want. But there's a lot of media that I generally consume, and I'm totally fine leaving it at like, the introductory medium that I've found it in. Like Star Wars, I was totally fine. Just like, hey, these are the movies. I heard about the expanded universe. Did not bother with it. It seemed like a lot, and apparently it didn't matter because they ended up canonizing it anyway. So looks like I made the right choice on that one. But I just kind of got thinking, especially because Destiny just wrapped up, and that's a weird example of just a game that I got so deep into that universe to the point where I literally have 2 like physical like compendiums of
cool.
these grimoire things, and they're so cool. Like I love whenever any creative takes the effort to like build out their universe externally. Like, granted, if it's too hinging on external media, then it becomes kind of an issue. But I love personally whenever something that I gravitate towards has like way more to it than I originally assumed, and when I can keep digging and digging and digging into something and still find meat and still find more and still find like all these different stories, and I guess I just wondered, and posing the question generally, like, do you guys engage with lore in any real meaningful way? Because I know a lot of people who don't. Like they like all the same games I do, they like all the same stuff I do, but they leave it kind of where they found it, and they're kind of content with the surface level kind of presentation of what these stories and what these games and what these movies and what these TV shows offer, and don't really feel a desire to dive deep into really anything. And I find that interesting, that there are people who just don't care about this at all. Like, not even just about like specific games that I'm interested in, but like in general, like they just extended universe stuff is just not a part of their media diet, even slightly. And there are some people who they're deeply into everything that they touch, and there's some people who like pick and choose. And I guess I wanted to pose this question to the group here. Brad, let's start with you.
Oh, Chris, you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
I love lore in video games. I am a huge fan of lore. Obviously, I like From Software games. They have some of the most fascinating lore out there of any game's things, particularly because not everything is concrete. Not everything is guaranteed to be correct. So I'm always really fascinated in that.
I love that stuff.
Yeah. I love, actually really like Zelda lore a lot too. I like it more than probably Nintendo does because they seem to not give a fuck about it. But I always think the lore is really cool in those games. And I always get mad when they kind of half-ass shit. And like, they're just like, yeah, doesn't matter. It's just a game. It's just like, fuck you guys. You guys set up all this cool shit.
Yeah.
And you don't do anything with it. Yeah, it pisses me off. Yeah. I love lore. Like, I remember I used to be into Warcraft lore. I love like Final Fantasy 14 lore. Like, all of that shit I love. Like, Lord of the Rings, obviously. Tolkien's work is an insane amount of lore. Probably because he wrote so much extra shit, but it's just so good and so deep. But yes, I love all that. I've been fascinated in Destiny. I don't even play Destiny, but I love, and I'm envious that I wish I had that desire to get into it, because I see people putting out, what is like a 9-hour, 10-hour story video or some shit about that, dude.
I've been watching that 9-hour lore, like that 10-hour lore video from My Name is Bye for weeks now.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Like, just watching a video for weeks is so cool to me. I adore shit like that.
It is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like even like Vadi Video, like everyone knows that guy. He does crazy shit. Like, he did like a 5-hour Armored Core like story video. I was like, what the fuck, dude? I didn't even know there's this much to the game. I love finding out so much more, and I just like the idea of these worlds people create and they put a lot of effort into like the backstory of it and just everything like that. I'm a huge fan of games like that. Not every game lands for me. Like obviously there's games I don't really give a shit about. Like I think there's some cool things about like Horizon. Like Colin, I know you love the Horizon universe. I think there's some cool stuff in there, but I'm not
It's on
like,
my list of what I'm going to talk about.
interested into like to dive into a lot of the other kind of stuff. But I appreciate games whenever they take huge chances like that. So yes, lore is good. I love lore. Feed me more.
Hell yeah, dude. Like there's I mean there's only so much you can really afford to pay attention to, like in depth. Like I do think there's an economy of attention. And you can only like you can't be into absolutely everything. But yeah, dude, like I know the FromSoft stuff is like super like I've been so intimidated by I've been so intimidated by Elden Ring just because like all the names sound so similar that I know I'm gonna like Margit.
Yeah, what do you mean? Marga? What's the fucking confusion?
Oh my god.
Godfrey, Godric, like what's wrong with you, Chris? It's so easy.
Yeah. Jim Jam. It's like, oh my god, I'm losing my goddamn mind. But it looks like as I'm playing through Elden Ring, I'm like, I know this is cool. And I would love to know more about it. I'm probably gonna once I'm done with this 10-hour video,
Destiny video,
I'm gonna dive it, dude. Because there's stuff about that game that I was like, oh yeah, whoa, I just didn't. That's one of those videos too that like I don't even think you really need to know anything about the game at all to just like this is just well presented shit. And like a lot of those people who do those videos just do a good job of like selling the feeling of like, oh, they're just telling you a story and you don't really have to engage with like the media itself. Like they're just gonna tell you, and that'll be enough. It's dope shit. Like
I have a question, Chris, about Destiny. The lore I hear is very fascinating. Have they done a better job about putting that in the game? Actually, a lot of that.
Yeah, they have. It's still the issue is I didn't even realize this until I was playing the final shape because I just assumed, like, because I'd been playing Destiny since D1, and in D1 you needed to go to like Bungie.net to literally read the lore. Like you would find a card in game and you'd have to go to the website to read it, which was like so inelegant and
that's interesting.
Really, it was so weird. But to be fair, even the lore back then was good, like really good actually. But it was just so detached from the game that it was like and so I just assumed that had continued to happen, and I didn't even think about the fact that like, wait, how are these YouTubers getting this lore in the first place? And I just thought like, oh, they must be going to the website like always. And it turns out that like in the bottom right of the screen of the UI, whenever you hover over like a weapon, there's like a button that says show lore. And I'm like,
they have like item descriptions. That's cool. Yeah, that's very from software.
Yeah, it's almost like the Final Fantasy like cutscene thing. Like the Final Fantasy 16 had this the real time.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of. It's not exactly the same because it's not a linear story and it doesn't really work that way. But they added that in the game and I just had no idea. And they're like full on fucking novels attached to these like legendary weapons and exotic weapons. Like this is sick. When did this happen? I missed this entirely, and I've just been getting all this information from YouTubers because I just assumed that's where I had to go. But then I guess logically they would have had to get the information from somewhere that wasn't tedious. But it's definitely a better job. But it's also like I would say honestly like that video is probably like the best way to go about it, like as a streamlined linear kind of thing. But yeah, no, I love lore and I love talking about it. Ben.
Yeah. I do like lore a lot. And I don't know if that comes from like the fact that I love history so much or if they're just kind of related, they're kind of linked there. But I like knowing about what happens and not just like the actual event, but everything that led up to it. So I guess that naturally lends itself to lore. In video games, I was also, when I played Destiny, was very into Destiny lore. And I'm glad to hear that they've made it more accessible in the game because I remember there'd be stuff where I'd find out lore from watching YouTubers and be like, there's no way that's possibly even in the game. They must have got this from the developers or something, but maybe not. When I played Nier Automata, I got super into the lore of that world and have like all the hardcover books. There's a couple soft cover books. Watched all the interviews, listened to everything I could, and just got really super deep into all that. And just, I think it adds so much and like enriches the experience you already had. And then sometimes if you go back and if you have a good memory, unlike me, and you go back and play it again, and you know all that stuff going into it, it can really add to the experience. I like movie lore a lot and TV show. As a matter of fact, like I'll go back in the day when you still got DVDs and they would have like commentaries or extended features or whatever. I like to really dig into that stuff and learn more about it. And yeah, some of that's just like making of and whatever, but I still consider that lore. Like that's about, I kind of like the production of the movie sometimes more than the actual movie itself. And so just hearing about how like this scene was filmed or how they decided on this particular actor or whatever, I think is really fascinating. And same with TV shows. Sometimes I'll be watching something that I've already seen. I'll be watching it with my wife Emily, and I'll be like, "Did you know?" And she's like, "Yeah, you've already told me that twice before." I'm like, "Oh, okay, good. I'm that guy now. I'm that guy." So I really dig into stuff like that, and like finding out things around. Yeah, the worst was. So one, any kind of time there's a war movie that's based on anything that actually happened, even if it's not actually, I may have already been familiar somewhat with the story, especially if it's American history. I know a good bit about that, but I'll go and like actually dig into like, okay, this was when that happened, and here's the differences in this. There was that show For All Mankind, which was really good. Alternative fiction about if the Russians landed on the moon first, and I've always been into space stuff, but that got me really back into like looking at some of these programs and just reading about them. So more on the history side, I guess, and especially since For All Man, but they parallel things. It's like what was happening at this time in real life that kind of with the show they decided to take it a different direction. So yeah, I like lore. I think it depends on what it is. There's some things you were saying like that you don't care about. There are, whatever. I'd never played the original 5, I guess, God of War games until God of War 2018 was coming out. And then I was like, I got to go play all these because I got to know the lore here. And of course, you can play 2018 all by itself, no problem. But it adds so much to know all the history behind it. And so Wikipedia didn't used to be good for stuff like this, but now Wikipedia is pretty good. It's still, a little tilted, a little biased sometimes, but for just straight facts, it's usually pretty decent. And so I'll dive down rabbit holes for hours and just be clicking links, and I don't even know how I got to somewhere from another place, but just go and like examine all the stuff that fed into these different properties that I like. And the last one I'll say is, you already mentioned it, but Lord of the Rings, man, I found Lord of the Rings when I was just going into like middle school, and throughout middle school and high school, I read Lord of the Rings, all of the books so many different times. I went through and read all the compendiums, the appendices, all the Silmarillion, all the backstory stuff. And most of that's gone now. Like, I don't remember it. There's still parts that come to me when I casually watch a movie or something these days, but there's just so much there. I mean, the man invented an entire language just for his characters to speak a few lines of it. Like, there's lore there. It's really good. But yeah, I dig it. Sometimes I don't care about it, but more often than not, it's and I even like lore for things. Like I love the From game lore, even though I really don't play those games. But I like digging into it and finding out about it.
Yeah. Even if I'm not into the lore, I always respect people that like put in the effort.
Yeah,
I'm always fascinated by it.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the lore of like a TV show as far as like the making of stuff. It's almost like the lore of the show as opposed to the lore in the show.
Right. Yeah.
I love that stuff too. Like I would like every movie and every like TV show that had a commentary track. I would always absolutely watch the commentary track as long as I had already seen it once. Even some video games did it too. Like I remember I remember Left 4 Dead. I think Left 4 Dead was probably the first time I remember ever seeing like a commentary track in a video game and being like, "Yo,
yeah,
that's really fucking interesting." And I think some special editions had commentary like DVD. I know the Halo 2 Legendary Edition had like a DVD commentary of it, and that was kind of interesting too. But it being in game is like super cool. Or like I'm super into that stuff too.
A lot of bands used to put like on the CD, if you put it in your computer, there'd be an extra file that you couldn't access on a CD player, obviously, and it'd be like a short movie making of. And I used to always every CD I got, and I used to buy a lot of music. I would go and throw it in my computer just to see if there was a making of, just because I like documentaries and stuff too, but just to see, like, I want to see them making this music. I want to see the thought process that went into this. I super dig that.
Hell yeah, dude. Colin.
Yeah, man, I love lore. I have a few things I wrote down just from different perspectives, I guess. First, the lore that I think, well, I'll take it from a different angle first, I guess, is that as an indie games writer, I guess, or someone that comes up with these small stories for our games and has just a small imprint on the titles that we make and that Barry really puts together for us at Lilymo, it's been fun for me to create lore. And I don't think anyone really cares about it, but like we just announced that Herboxia 2 sold 25,000 copies. And there's deep lore in Herboxia 2 that I wrote and put into it. And a lot of it comes from insinuation. Some of it's literal in like documents you find in whatever, but I try to create in-game lore by being thoughtful in naming the stages and having them located and then having little sentences and statements about what you're doing there or like what the aliens are doing there and all of the rest. So like a mining operation, a prison camp, like all these different things. And so you can kind of just read into their culture and like what they're doing. And it's fun for me to think that if 25,000 people played it, maybe a few people did read all of it and get it and care about it. And that's kind of cool. And that would be so exciting to be able to do that for games that more and more people play. But I just really want to make these 8-bit NES style games. So I'm never going to write anything bigger, except for maybe the role-playing game that we have out. And that's what I was going to say. So if anything, what I like about the writing process the most is making up what happened. And that is the lore, right? Like everything that's kind of occurred and why and where. When I'm writing the role-playing game, which I've been really disciplined about not saying what it is. I see some people writing that it's a Civil War role-playing game. I'm like, it's not what it is. So you're totally wrong on that. But so I'm actually going to write a timestamp down here. Okay. And I'm going to have Dustin cut this out because I'll explain to you some of what's going on in the game. Oh, Ben knows already, but okay. So we're back. So all of that I just explained is like what's interesting to me about the writing process of the game is like creating that idea and like why they're doing what they're doing and all of the rest. And I realized during the process, because I had written Herboxia and Herboxia 2 Twin Breaker, these were short games that I wrote. My nephew just recently asked me like, how long does it take you to write one of your small games? And I'm like, I write them each in a weekend. Like I think about them. There's not much to say. I usually have something I want to go off of and then I go from there. But what I realized with the role-playing game was I was like, I don't really want to write this like whole thing. Like I like making up what happened and like the characters and where we're going and everything goes through me. I'm kind of like the lore master, but as the script is written by another writer, Jono, I try to kind of navigate what is real and what isn't and make changes or whatever. But it's also fun to see someone take what I made up and interpret it. Like after the game comes out, I'll show everyone I have a huge bulletin board in my loft with all of the information, like all the acts laid out and like what happens and who the characters are and like the whole interaction between everything. And that's like what I came up with. And that's the good shit, in my opinion. So that's like all lore. And so this totally speaks to me. I wrote down some examples of what I think are IP that are lore heavy and that you really should get into the lore in if you're into it. Some TV shows and some games. So I'll go through these quick. Resistance, very lore heavy. You have to, there are books and stuff, but it's not even that. It's just that you have to understand a little bit about the world and like who you're fighting and what's going on. And for people that don't know, Resistance is dope because it's alternate history. It takes place and is like a fork from history in 1908 when the Tunguska event happens, which is a real thing. That's when a meteor hits Russia in like the middle of nowhere. And in the Resistance story, that's when the Chimera arrive. But they're really not Chimera. It's like a virus and they're kind of morphing. So like the Iron Curtain is built earlier and it's really them like isolating themselves from the rest of the world and getting going and all of that. It's good shit. Resistance is dope. You brought up Horizon. Horizon is heavily lore centric. If you take the time to read and explore everything in the games, you'll learn a lot about the world and like what happened.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff in that game.
I agree. And the second game, I won't even get into because there's such huge spoilers. Like the second, I really do love Forbidden West.
I like the story more in that game.
The story is awesome. Like the story is totally like, you can't even, I said when it came out, I'm like, you will never even be able to imagine what it's actually about. Like that's another one. Mass Effect.
Oh,
incredibly lore centric. There's all sorts of shit that's really important that happens in before the games begin that you need to know about to have any context.
Yeah, there's like books and stuff for that.
Right. Like the first contact war, like the Turians and the humans fighting each other, the humans being violent, the humans finding the Prothean runes on Mars, the humans finding the mass relay around Pluto. And there's like so many things that they don't really get into, but like that are important to knowing how you get to the Citadel, ultimately what the Citadel is and all the rest. So Mass Effect's another one.
I really want to replay those.
Me too. I've been thinking about those recently as well because I never played the remasters or whatever.
Legendary Edition.
And then these are 3 weird ones I thought I'd throw out there that are also, in my opinion, lore heavy. Wolfenstein. No matter what continuity you're in, that's a really unusual game series, especially the Machine Games ones, in the sense that they're rooted in some sort of, I know it sounds crazy, but they're rooted in some sort of real history. Not in World War II history, but in like the Nazis' obsession with the occult. And that's real. The Nazis really were obsessed with that shit. And the SS especially were crazy. And Wolfenstein comes from that like notion, like that Himmler and Hitler and others were like searching for like supernatural things. And I love that. And Wolfenstein doesn't get enough credit for being really, really good in that regard. And then Shadow Complex, which is one of the great Xbox 360 games. That game takes place in the context of a book by Orson Scott Card called Empire. And they never go into it in the game at all, but it's true. The Shadow Complex is a place in the book. And Empire is really dope. It's about a civil war in the United States between the Democrats and the Republicans in like modern day. And so Shadow Complex actually takes place during that civil war. And I love that. They don't really ever mention it, but that is the case. And The Division has really good lore too about the dollar flu and all the different terrorist cells and all the rest. That's why was really bummed about Heartland being canceled, although I am looking forward to The Division 3. And then I did write down 3 TV shows that I think are lore heavy that I would love people to look into if they're interested in them. I bring this one up all the time, but this one's heavily lore centric, is Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of shit that happens in that show that is never shown, but only mentioned. You only see the beginning of the Second War, but there's like a whole other war that happened between the Cylons and the humans that you never get a glimpse of.
I went really deep down the rabbit hole on Battlestar.
Yeah, that's good shit.
A real nerd. Yeah.
And there's religious stuff, polytheism and monotheism, and there's a lot there. That show is wonderful, and I highly recommend Battlestar Galactica. It has slow moments, and it's pretty B-movie in some sense, but
yeah,
it's so good. It like, come on, man. Religious robots? Come on, dude. All right. Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
There's obviously the book, but the TV show is deeply lore centric too, and people obsessively like screenshot the show and get things from the background. Like there are specific scenes, I think, in the 3rd season where they show so much and answer so many questions without saying it by just showing quick glimpses of maps and things that are going on. And that's obviously about a theocratic takeover of the United States. And that's and in the backdrop of this is what makes the show so good, is the reason that happens is because there's a fertility crisis where no one is having kids anymore. Like no one can have kids anymore. It's good shit. And Ben, I think you'll appreciate this if I recall. Downton Abbey.
Oh yeah.
I love Downton Abbey. I'm a huge Downton Abbey fan. Mark for that shit. And there's deep ass lore in that show.
Yeah.
About people's relationships and where things come from. For instance, like the wife character being a rich American who came in and basically saved the estate from ruin using her American corporate money or whatever. But it's never really, it's only like kind of implied. But it's like a deep undercurrent about how like the two of them didn't really love each other and then came to love each other, but they were like in a marriage of convenience. She would get like the titles, he would get the money, and they never really explicitly say it. But I love how that's always in the background, and stuff that went on with World War I and the Boer War with Bates and all the rest. So yeah, Downton Abbey, deep lore.
Colin, I think you and I were 2 of the 16 men who have ever seen Downton Abbey movies in the theater.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I was there. Opening weekend, the last movie. And dude, did you see the table read pictures that they're doing another movie?
I didn't know they were doing another movie, but I didn't.
Yeah,
see.
and they released like some video and footage of the table read. I was like, oh, I'm so excited. And the big thing about that is Paul Giamatti's coming back, and he's an important character. He's the brother of the American wife, and he's in it a little bit, but he's coming back in, and there's a whole bunch of lore there with him too.
just to give a little, these guys are mocking us, Colin.
No, we're not. I'm
not
genuinely.
mocking
I'm genuinely like, I don't know. I like when people geek out about shit
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me smile. Like I like it a lot. I love lore. That's why I brought this up.
Give a little
You know?
plug for Downton Abbey, though. In addition to everything Colin's ever said about it, I remember my wife was watching it. I'd be editing or something at night, and I'd come down to grab a new drink or whatever, and she'd be watching it, and I'd look at it and I'd be like, oh, this is just another like Victorian show I don't care about that she's watching. And she finished it, and I don't remember what it was, but I saw something online, like a trailer or something, and I was like, is it Downton Abbey any good, or is it just she's like, yeah, you would probably like it more than I do. And I watched one episode, and I think we finished, like it was over, like that was when it finished, the whole show, and I watched from beginning to end in like 10 days, something. I was addicted to that show, and I've watched it twice since then. You gotta watch it.
It's really wonderful, just because I think people think it is like a typical like Bridgerton style Victorian or Edwardian show, which is fine.
And there is that stuff in there, for sure.
and it is. It's a little soapy, and that kind of, I also like that kind of stuff too. Like I like costume drama and period pieces and all the rest, but there's an undercurrent that I think that people don't understand what the show's really about. And what the show is really about is how they are barely hanging on to that life.
It's about
that's what the show is about, how the world is changing.
Yeah.
And that their reality is changing and they can't accept it. And that's really good shit, you know? So, but I don't think people know that that's what it's about. I think they just think it's about a family and they have people that work for them and all that. I'm like, no,
it's all about the marketing.
It's like saying Battlestar is about robots fighting humans. It's like, no,
right.
That's not what it's about.
Yeah,
you know, like,
it's outside perception. That's what's so cool about lore. I think is it deepens pretty much everything to the point where like it is really like it is really a shame how many people will never understand like how fundamentally cool Destiny is.
Yeah,
like actually, because there's no chance that they're ever going to sift through all that shit.
Right.
Like it's impossible. But it is so fucking sick. Like it is religion. It is science. That's my favorite shit, by the way. Like science fiction merged with religion. I love that shit. Like Bungie's really good at that. Like that was what Halo was about.
That makes sense.
Dead Space.
Yeah.
That is like a secret sauce to me. And that Destiny is like that times like a million. It's just pantheons and benevolent mysterious gods and shit. It's like, China, Russia, and the United States have a joint mission to Mars, and they discover this sleeping god that won't communicate with them, but uplifts their civilization. It's sick. It is so cool. But I don't know. I love lore. It's cool that it's cool. There are certain shows I didn't even realize that, and I guess this is the nature of these things, right? Like if you only see them in passing, like you don't really realize what depth there is. Because I didn't realize really any of that about Downton Abbey at all. I really did think it was like I don't know what I thought it was. I just thought it was people from a long time ago being themselves, I guess. I have no concept of what that is. But yeah, I love whenever creatives take the effort to do that.
Colin, did you like Outriders lore?
Yeah, Outriders was cool because that gets into I don't think people care about spoiling that. Like the whole game gets into like the idea of generation ships, but typically the idea of, and this is what I'm so like what's so scary about generation ships is that you send a generation ship out and it takes 400 years to get to where it's going or whatever. But in that 400 years, they had figured out a way to get there way faster. And so they get there first. And then your fucking generation ship has been plopping along at this, like, you know, at sublight speed or whatever to fucking Proxima Centauri. And then you realize like that's good shit because that deals with time, which is in and of itself. And Horizon does too, like where it just deals with the cyclical nature of time. So yeah, I did like Outriders. I'm really hopeful. I'm pretty sure there will be another Outriders game. It just seems like that was one of the games they didn't flush out in their paperwork. Like, because like Life is Strange continues. And
it just depends how much it costs to make, I guess.
right, exactly. Like when they got rid, I think they had said that there were certain things in the West that they wanted to hold on to, and I thought it was Outriders,
Yeah, I
Life
think
is
they
Strange,
held
and
on to
something
it, yeah.
else. Outriders was super dope. I really feel like people underrated that game. I think it kind of had a little bit of Game Pass stink on it.
It
if I'm
did.
being
And I
honest.
think people thought it was something that it wasn't either.
Well, it also launched horrendously.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
To be
That's
fair.
true. It did.
What do you mean?
I think
in bad
people
shape?
thought it was
Chris?
more like, yeah, it was in bad
Well,
shape.
it was
I
it was
remember
in bad shape when it launched, and like I think there was like server issues, and then I think the big
The
big thing that
multiplayer was broken.
the multiplayer was broken. I think the big thing was that it was a gear focused game, like a loot driven game. And then there were some people for like in the first couple weeks, the time frame of this might be a little bit wrong. Somebody can correct me in the comments. But for the first little while, people were like grinding for this gear, and then it was just getting deleted like out of their inventories. And they just like, which is like, that's like the main reason you play these things.
Yeah, that's rough. That would
Like if I lost even a fraction of my Destiny weapons, I would like an exotic or something, I would lose my shit.
Yeah.
Especially back then, like at the beginning of a game when you're like building all that stuff. So like, yeah, I just think that probably just didn't help. It did really well though. Like a lot of people played it, and a lot of people.
Yeah.
It had a lot of play. I remember the concurrent player base at the beginning was pretty good, despite the server issues and despite all those issues. But it did have that kind of rough launch kind of stink on it, I think, and that's what kind of pushed me away from it. I actually played a little bit of it and I liked it, and then I heard about that gear thing. And I was like, no shot. Like, no shot am I going to grind for like a gear and then lose and potentially lose it. It was almost like the PSN thing where like, oh, if you change your name, you're going to lose all your shit. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just like, I'm not going to do that then. Yeah, I think that game deserves a second chance. I think if they could make like a sequel and like flesh out that stuff and like learn from any of the issues that they had, like I think that could be something.
They said it didn't make money, so I doubt I don't know if it'll get a sequel or not.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
well,
never
that's
broke
it.
even, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a shame because I just don't. I can see not doing another one, just not even from Outriders performance, because often you want to see what the sequel will do and maybe it'll uplift everything, but rather there's just too much competition. I mean, that was the one thing I walked away from, and I said it on Sacred. I walked away from the game shows like the Xbox show and Jeff Keighley's thing or whatever this weekend. I'm like, man, it's going to be a bloodbath. Like half these, no one's going to play half the shit.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's not because it's bad. It's because there's no time, there's no inclination, and there's no money. So yeah, Outriders, I don't know if it's going to live again, but I know that they were hopeful for that. I think that what Square Enix wants to do is to do internal Japanese development and external Western development.
Yes.
As opposed to having, which they were basically doing the opposite for a long time.
Colin, check out that message I just put in our chat.
Yeah,
let me see here.
about that for sure.
What is
That's
this?
big Colin news.
Brand new mainline Shovel Knight game is in development. It's not just another sequel. It's a bold new adventure that will launch Shovel Knight into an entirely new dimension of gaming. Ugh, it's going to be a 3D game.
Yeah, it's 3D for sure.
I know that was always their idea. They had said that to me, and I did an interview with them many, many years ago where they were like, we envision like an N64 style Shovel Knight and I'm like, that's cool, but why one Shovel Knight game?
Yeah.
Like in the traditional style one? I just don't get that, man. I mean, I just think that's not restraint. That's stupid. You know, to not at least do 2 or 3 of them. I just think that's stupid. Like, I love Yacht Club. They're awesome. They're friend. You know, I have a couple personal friends there, no doubt. But I just don't understand why I feel like they've kind of not treated Shovel Knight with a lot of care.
They're doing an enhanced edition of Shovel Knight now.
With all the expansions packed in, probably.
I think they did that already.
Did they? Okay.
It says
I'll platinum it again. That's fine.
Shovel of Hope DX, an enhanced edition of the Pixel Perfect Adventure.
Jump, battle foes, and dig up treasure as you quested. DX adds 20 playable characters, online multiplayer, and new features like rewind and save states. Boo! Oh my god.
Oh, Colin. Poor Colin. No date.
That's one of my hardest platinums. That's why it's like you had to beat that game straight up and do a lot of really difficult things in it. Just like the Mega Man trophies are really hard too.
Yeah. No date for Mina. I can't believe that still.
Chris, what did you text me?
What?
Oh my god, what is it? Oh my god.
It's a little Mickey Mouse taxidermy.
Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry.
Hold on, I'm trying to. Yeah,
I love that
That's
image.
funny.
I love that image so much. That's a real
Me too.
mouse.
Yeah.
that's funny shit, man.
It'd be cool
Are
to
you-
be taxidermied if you died, you know?
Oh, for you to be taxidermied?
Yeah, like a human. Like, yeah, just put me in a pose or something.
There are certain funerals that do that. Like that's like a tradition.
Yeah.
I think
But,
actually in Puerto Rico, I think they do that.
I want to be
sometimes.
like kept in the house though, you know? Not like just at
Oh.
the funeral.
Like at the front entrance.
Yeah,
Why don't we-
something
yeah.
like that.
Brad, we're gonna bury you like Lenin.
No,
We're gonna make
please
like a big mausoleum
don't.
and like
No,
have
you-
your body in
You
state.
can just put me like on a perch, and I'll be like sitting like a gargoyle in your house.
Yeah,
or
that'd be
some shit.
sick.
Like you could do that instead.
That'd be
but-
sick.
What if we sawed you in half and then encased your top half in resin and used it as a
Ooh.
coffee table?
Oh wow,
That'd be pretty
no
cool,
one's ever thought of
actually.
that before. Yeah.
I have
That'd be a great idea.
explicit. There are explicit instructions to family and my wife to cremate me. Like
Yeah,
under no
yeah.
circumstances am I not to be cremated. You have.
But what
got to
about the
cremate me.
ashes? Can we do something fun with those?
Yeah, do whatever you want with those.
I had a
Um,
friend in college that always said he wanted to be cremated and turned into a frisbee so his grandkids could play with him.
Okay.
That
That's
was-
dark. Yeah,
that was
yeah. You
dark,
get like the
but-
play. Yeah, do something fun.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll leave it up to you guys. Like that'll be my instructions in my will. Will be do something fun.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to be buried. I don't like the idea of like me just kind of chilling in the ground for a long time, but I'm not even there. You know?
You turn
Oh,
into a cool skeleton though.
Real talk though, no one should be buried. It's completely
Oh,
insane
yeah,
that we do
it's
this.
a really dumb idea.
It's a lot of money. too.
It's just
It is a lot of
incredibly.
money.
It's like, what are you doing? Like, it's not permanent. Like, no one is.
Right.
You're not going to be there permanently. You'll go, why are we doing this? Just burn the body.
Burn
Like-
the body. At least
You know-
taxidermy them.
Ashes to ashes, dude.
At least.
That's like
At
that's
the
what
very
we should
least
be doing.
taxidermy.
Yeah, taxidermy them and sell them to department stores, and they could use them as mannequins.
Yeah, or like a haunted house. You can sell me to like my body to haunted. Like put me in the haunted mansion or something like that. Like
That
an actual
would be
corpse.
Fucking crazy. Like,
Yeah,
if there was a
Like,
haunted
Walt
house
Disney
that
should
advertised,
be in there.
if there's a haunted house that advertised like we got real dead people as our like,
Yeah,
as
that's some
our-
edgy shit,
I
dude.
guess I would absolutely go to that.
You guys are missing the inevitable future of this, though. You know how, like, now you could go to a thrift store and maybe you'll find like somebody's taxidermy dog that they died and they didn't. The kids didn't want the taxidermy dog. Eventually, there will come a point when your taxidermy body will be in a Goodwill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how do you feel about
Definitely.
Oh,
Definitely.
it's okay. I'll be dead already. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but it's so you don't need that kind of heat in the post life, you know, like
that? No, you don't.
just go away and be done.
Just go away.
Yeah,
You know, just be done. Like everyone else is done. I often think about that. Like at some point, someone will remember you for the last time.
sure.
Yeah,
Dark.
very dark.
And on that note, Chris, are you satiated?
I mean, I was. That kind of brought me down a little bit, but
Yeah,
I am satisfied.
That's a great topic. You know,
Next
I-
topic: taxidermy, man.
yeah, taxidermy. Well, that leads ironically into my topic, which is taxidermy. You know, I was going to say real quick, because you guys have been talking about these YouTube videos and the lore videos. The one thing that I love, and I know I'm like very old, so I'm catching things that are very late, but I've watched a few of the iceberg videos.
Oh my
about
god.
the
Oh,
yeah.
videos. Not only about
that shit's
like,
insane.
I watched the Zelda one, which was really good, but I also watched one about the Columbine shooting, so you can get both.
Oh,
You know?
wow. Yeah.
The spectrum.
Right. There's a
Yeah.
whole spectrum of iceberg videos out there for you, but I was like, wow, I really like this shit.
Yeah,
This
there's
is good stuff.
icebergs for everything, Colin. It's crazy.
Yeah, the creepy YouTube element, I love that. Like that little
Yeah.
corner of YouTube. Okay. Well, I'll wrap things up. Shovel Knight's actually is a great segue into what I was going to talk about, because I've been thinking about retro gaming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always thinking about retro gaming because I am a retro gamer. The NES is my favorite console of all time. I think it will always be my favorite console of all time. It's perfect in every way. And there are just so many wonderful games on it. But I was thinking about games that I play, and I try to read. I must admit I'm getting lazier and lazier about reading feedback. Like I used to, it's funny, like when you start in the industry, when I started at IGN, we didn't even have comments, right? For many years.
Mhm.
And then when comments were added, I was obsessed with them.
Mm.
Because you used to have to go to like the IGN message boards, which were a complete fucking disaster, to see anything. And you just wouldn't, I don't know if you guys remember the Vestibule, which was like the forum on IGN, which was
Oh
like
yeah.
a shithole.
I remember the forums. I never really went on them, but
Yeah, they were whatever. They were not good. They were never good forums. That was not what we did well over there. But eventually we got these comments, and then of course there was like the culture of commenting is new. It's not part of Internet 1.0. I don't know if people like younger people realize that you had no idea what anyone was saying about anything unless you went to forums. That was the only way. Otherwise, there was no like user comments and what do you
chat
think?
Rooms.
Right, chat rooms, things like that. You had to go seek that out. Then it kind of all became integrated with each other. And I've been reading people's, feedback to my work for a really long period of time. And so I eventually was obsessed with it for many years. And then I tried to like get off. Now I'm like probably more detached than ever. But one thing I do notice that people say to me from time to time or about me is like, what is he playing?
Watch Summon Sign and you'll find out when he's
right,
on.
exactly. If you want to literally know what I'm playing.
Yeah.
You can watch that every now and again. But the reality is that I do play unusual games, and I play a lot of older or old games or games that are predicated on being old, like the games that Lilymo makes. And there are a lot of us that are making those kinds of games. So it's not like we're unusual in that regard. And I realized I was looking at my trophies last night, and I just like that. This is what I love about trophies. People think it's like EP and shit. And I've said this in the past. That's certainly an element of it. You want to be able to like show your credibility, but I really like it as like this catalog of things that I've done.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it and I was like, wow, the last 4 games that I played and the 4th game I'm playing now, it's Animal Well. So a game that looks really old, although it's beautiful. System Shock, a remake of a 1994 PC game. Ion Fury, a boomer shooter running on the Duke Nukem engine from the mid 90s. That was made in 2019. And then now I'm playing Panzer Paladin, which just randomly came to PS4 after 4 or 5 years of being on Switch. I don't think anyone's even noticed. Literally, I don't think anyone's even noticed because it just came up.
I had no idea. Yeah.
And so I started playing that last night, and it's pretty good. It's not, honestly, it's not as good as I was
it's all right.
hoping.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good, but it's not amazing.
Yeah, it's not. It's really pretty though. I will say that. And I realized that. So you have like your side scroller, or your Mega Man, like nonlinear side scroller, Panzer Paladin. You have your boomer shooter. That's really kind of like a 2.5D game that it looks 3D, obviously. And like this beautiful, like, I love that when you like circulate around a dead enemy body and it's just a bunch of JPEGs as you go.
Yeah.
And Ion Fury, I have System Shock, like your original immersive sim made with some new aesthetic, and Animal Well, a game, a Metroidvania that looks old, although it has a really beautiful aesthetic too. And I was like, damn, I could only play this kind of stuff and be totally happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering how you guys, we have a smattering of ages here, which I think is good. I wonder if, very similar to the idea of, I listened to Rage Against the Machine and Stone Temple Pilots and all Sublime and all this stuff because I was listening to it in middle school. And I still do it today, or high school. And that's like what I love. And that's where you kind of get your taste and all that kind of stuff. Am I deeply rooted in this space because of that? Or are these games, do these games still speak loudly in an era dominated by realism, expense, length, and all these other modifiers that I think are don't necessarily equate to a good game automatically? Yet I think we deal with an audience where if I put Ion Fury next to Call of Duty Black Ops 6, people would judge Ion Fury, obviously, and but they wouldn't see it for what it was.
Mm.
So I just wanted to see where your head was with your respective heads were with retro gaming and your participation currently, and where you think it's rooted. And could the core question be answered like this? I love those games because I was born on an NES and an SNES. Or is it that they do speak, like, is there a 10-year-old out there or a 12-year-old out there that's attracted to these kinds of games, like, authentically? I don't know. Like, without any influence. I'm not saying like growing up with Ben as your dad, right? And his kids from Dagan, like with his son Graydon, like he's a fucking huge nerd, but of course he is. I'm wondering if like someone sees Ion Fury and they see it for what it is, or if they're like, this sucks. And if I'm so I wanted to, basically this is a conversation about retro gaming, but an acknowledgement that I see what people say every once in a while about the games I play, and yet I feel like I'll never be able to, nor do I want to escape them. So let's begin. Brad, what thread do you want to pull out here?
Well, I there's a lot to come out from here. So I guess Colin will take it from the angle of, someone playing it. If there is someone out there who could be drawn to it without like any influence, I think so. I think a lot of these games have a timeless art style that people still resonate with. yeah, a lot of like people our age still like it because it does remind us a lot of those old games and everything like that. But I still think there is some beauty in that, and people can appreciate that. Of course, you're going to get people that are like, this looks ugly. This sucks. And, you see that all the time. I think you're just going to get both those kind of people out there, Colin. For how much longer people will appreciate that old style, I don't know. Because just I have no idea like what the younger generation thinks about a lot of that kind of stuff. Like people who are 12 now or anything like that, I'm not sure how they'd feel about it. But I think there is some appeal to them no matter what. Because ultimately, Colin, they're just good games, a lot of them. And the good games people will remember and come back to no matter what. No matter how far we get in technology. I think video games are an art form like that people can appreciate, even if they're not the most technically advanced. You think about like old movies. A lot of people still watch really old movies, even though they're not very impressive from a technical standpoint anymore, like visuals and everything like that. People just still like them because there's something special about them. Story, characters, there's something that people latch onto no matter what the time period is. So I think that carries over as in retro games as well. And Colin, I think people get mad at you. I think it's weird, but I think they just want to know what your opinion is about a lot of like the big games that are coming out. Like you played Rebirth and stuff like that, but I could see people wanting to be like, what does he think about whatever Rebirth or anything like that? There's just a lot of games like that people want to know what you think about.
Yeah, I
don't
respect
think it's necessarily just a retro thing.
Yeah, I respect that. I just I don't want to.
No, I think you should play what you want to play ultimately, because you'll enjoy it. You don't want to be miserable playing something like that. But once in a while, if you take like a weird risk like that or go out of your comfort zone, you may find something you do like.
Well, that's kind of what frustrates me, just in the sense that I don't think I have a comfort zone. Like outside of...
Well, you're just talking about retro games that are very comforting to you.
Well,
you like those.
Right, that's true. And I want to specifically pull out the thread of comfort in a little bit, but it bothers me just because I feel like I truly do have a really deeply eclectic taste for games.
I feel like you do too, yeah.
And so when people are like, you're not eclectic, you don't play multiplayer games, or it's like, you don't play fucking grand strategy games or something. Dude, look at my trophies. Like, there's like no common thread to any of these games.
Yeah.
Like so I feel like just give me a moment to like explore and I'll get to the games that I want to speak to. You don't want to hear my opinion about something I don't want to play. And the other thing that I become very cognizant of, and this is just straight up fucking true, is that playing games immediately is usually a suicide fucking pact with the worst version of the game.
It's usually better to
wait. Unless I'm really, really excited about something, I am more than happy to wait. Like the Rise of the Ronin that I'll play this month or next month is going to be in way better shape than the Rise of the Ronin anyone else play. Look at Final Fantasy 16. It's like it's running after 2 DLC packs in more than a year. That's the best it's ever been. And it's like, well, I'm long done with it. And I don't like that feeling. So if I can resist being part of the zeitgeist, or I don't want to be spoiled. So Ghost of Tsushima, when that comes out, I'll definitely play that immediately. Or some first party game, The Last of Us Part 3, obviously I'm going to be far up that game's ass. But generally speaking, I'm also turned off by playing games immediately because we're just getting shitty versions, 1.0 versions of games. And I'm sick of being the beta tester for these products. I pay for them. It's not like I get these games for free. We all pay for our games. So that also turns me off. And I think that's another like small thing, is just I'm attracted to games like Ion Fury is going to run fine because it's a fucking Source game or whatever it is. Like whatever. Or no, not Source. What? I'm sorry?
Build engine.
Build. That's the engine I was thinking of. So it's like, of course, it was created to run on a 486 computer. I think it's going to be just fine. But with these newer games, I'm a little bummed out about that. But all right, let's pull out some more threads as we go around. Ben, let's hear from you. What do you want to speak about in this varied topic?
Yeah, well, to your point about like, will people in the future have an affinity towards them? I don't know. I mean, specifically with me, my initial one, before I even had kids, I was like, okay, when I have kids, I'm going to make them play video games in the same like console order that I did. I'm going to bust out the NES. They're going to play that. My first game ever was Super Mario on the NES that I remember playing, at least as a very young age. They're going to play that. Eventually got to the point where I was like, I'm not dragging all that old shit out. So I let them start playing like older games on newer consoles. Playing on the Switch, but playing some of the back catalog stuff. And my kids, especially my oldest, loves that stuff. Like he's gone back and beat old games I haven't touched in 30 years. and absolutely love them. So I think that yes, there is some affinity, but now of course my kids are like stuck on Fortnite. They're still playing other things. My son just recently wanted to buy like some cheap Chinese piece of crap Game Boy that just emulates like all of these old games, and I was only okay. It was like $20. I was like, this is not a good device, but the fact that you'll have access to so, and it's emulation, stealing, whatever. But he's a kid. I was like, the fact that you'll have access to literally thousands of these old ROMs, just get it, just go for it. Like, I thought it was good that he would.
Does it come loaded
play
with
those
them?
old games? Yeah, it comes loaded.
Oh,
with them.
sick!
A lot
That's
of them are
crazy.
like Chinese knockoffs too.
Oh.
They're the game, but with a different
Oh, right,
sprite put in
right.
them. So I mean, he's played a lot of them legit, but now he has the ability to play them without internet and without he can play them anywhere. So I think so, and I think the point you brought up about like the music you liked when you were from 20 years ago is still the music you like. When I remember growing up, I'd hear my dad listen to music, and it's music I appreciate, but I'm like, why do you like this? And it's the stuff he was listening to when he was 18. And now I go to turn on music and I like, oh, there's this new album by this band that everybody likes. And I listen to it and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, I'm going to go listen to something from 2004 right now instead. So I think that, once we die out, maybe some of that older stuff dies out a little bit. But I think there is a lot of appreciation to be had. As somebody mentioned, I love movies from the 1940s. I'm a weirdo, I guess, but I think there'll always be a place for those things. But as far as what I play, a lot of I play a lot of Warcraft 2. I'll bust that out at least once a year and do a campaign with that. Same with Age of Empires, similar style of games, of course. Things that I really liked and played a lot of, but I like a lot of retro inspired games. You mentioned boomer shooters. You specifically mentioned Ion Fury, which was I think that was like one of my top 3 games of that year. Maybe 2019 wasn't a great year, but that was a really good game. I also loved it because it's tied in. Do you get the Jeopardy question now, Colin, from the live show? There was a question about Shelly Bombshell in there.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
that's so funny. I didn't even. Okay, yeah. Because, dude, the way I found it was literally just Googling boomer shooters. Like, because I know it's becoming more of a relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what I found was it's highly relevant. Actually, there were a bunch of games I'd never even heard of. So that was like, along with Proteus and a couple others, were like the highest considered ones. And so I downloaded it, not also knowing, Ben, that the sequel just came out. Like in timing, like I didn't even realize that.
I'd wait on it.
Yeah.
I'm not I'm the first one to usually play those games, and everybody was like messaging me telling me wait on this one. So I mean, it's probably cheap enough that it's fine. But
I don't know why they moved engines. I thought that was weird.
Yeah, I think it's different people doing it.
Oh, it's Slipgate Ironwork, right, or whatever. Yeah.
Then you've got Wrath and Ultra Kill and the new Bolt Gun. All of those games are in that same kind of vein, and those are more like what I play. They look retro. They're inspired by retro. They're brand new games, but they're built a lot of times on old engines, the old Doom engine, the old Unreal Engine. Those are very much my shit. I really get into that kind of stuff. I mean, I love new things too, but if you told me the only game I could play for the rest of my life was Duke Nukem 3D from 1996, I would not be mad. Like, I just very much enjoy those things. And I don't know, with me, is that because they're still good or because I played the hell out of them when I was 9 years old? I don't know, but they're very much appealing to me still. If they keep making games that are inspired by these old things, you mentioned Shovel Knight, if they keep making games that are retro inspired, then yeah, I'm probably going to keep playing them as long as they're a good game. And that's what it really comes down to me. It's not to get totally on a different subject, but it's the kind of thing I say with anime. I'm like, I don't like a boomer shooter because it's a boomer shooter. I like a boomer shooter because it's a boomer shooter and it's good. It's kind of like I say with anime. Like, people will be like, do you like anime? I'm like, I don't like anime. I like good movies or good TV shows. If it's a good anime TV show, then I'll probably like it. So I'm very much set on quality over form first, or age. And yeah, there's some really old games that were phenomenal at the time. And there's a lot you can extract from them and appreciate about them, but they might just not be fun to play anymore. And so those, I'm not going to play them just for the sake of they're old and they're, whatever. But if it's still a good game and it's retro inspired or actually retro, then I'm all about it, man. I've been playing a little bit of Final Fantasy Tactics, and that's not quite as old as we're talking here. But I'm like, I'd never played it before. I'm like, this is such a good game.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah, it is.
And yeah, I guarantee if you sat most 15-year-olds down and were like, here, this was one of the biggest games 25 years ago, they would laugh at you. And, those videos of like old kids discovering Game Boy or young kids discovering Game Boys and the people asking them questions about it, it'd be kind of like that, where they're like, what is this trash? How do I turn it on?
I want to stab those kids when I watch some of those every once in a while. Yeah.
And some of it I feel
Shit.
like I'm like, this is for show. This isn't, they're not really,
Yeah.
but it is real. I think some of it's real. But yes, I love retro games. I'm not in the collecting scene. I'll pick up a game here and there. Dustin brought me back from Japan the original 3 Crash Bandicoot Japanese games for PS1. Those are, again, not as old as we're talking here generally, but like that's the kind of retro that if something really was impactful to me, then I want to collect that.
Sure.
But I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm fine with playing them on any system, however they need to.
Me
be
too.
played.
I don't want to
Yeah.
collect any of this shit either, unless it's
Yeah.
like very specific console stuff
Right.
for specific franchises. But yeah, I don't
Right.
want to have all that stuff either.
Yeah, the
Because
only
all
thing
that can
I'm
fit
like,
all that can fit in like nothing. It's just like
Right.
just carry it around in a Game Boy.
the only thing I'm like actively collecting, and I'm doing this only when I go to like retro shows, used game shows, whatever. I'm intentionally not getting on eBay and ordering them. I'm trying to collect every Duke Nukem game for every system in every region. And it's harder than you'd think. But that's like the only thing I'm actively collecting. But I like playing them. I don't need to have a giant collection that I can't do anything with.
Every Duke Nukem game,
That's what I'm trying to do.
even Land of the Babes.
Oh yeah, I already have all those. Yeah. Yeah. Although I'd like a nicer copy of the EU PlayStation 1 Land of the Babes, because the one I have, somebody obviously was smoking, and so it's a little yellowed. I don't terribly care about the quality, because really I'm just going to set them somewhere and look at them. But
chain smoking cigarettes while playing Duke Nukem Land of the Babes is a vibe.
That's
Yeah,
on brand.
That's on brand. Yeah, I was exactly what I was going to say. That's very on brand.
Every time I'm going to say this, I'm never saying these things to get people to try to like sell me stuff, but every time I've mentioned Duke Nukem in one of our shows or on a stream or something, somebody messages me like, I have a copy of Duke Nukem Forever for the Xbox 360. Do you want it? I already have them all. I already have every conceivable copy of Duke Nukem Forever. I don't want them, but they're part of the collection. I don't want yours. Okay. If you have another one, let me know. But not Duke Nukem Forever. Please, never again.
Right on. Yeah, dude, the collecting thing, like I got the bug a little bit with, well, really in a major way with being able to collect G.I. Joes, but you'll appreciate this, is that I'm so overwhelmed with my collection at this point of G.I. Joes, because I just kept buying and buying and buying them, because they just like a lot. People would message me, like even listeners, be like, I have a lot of Joes or whatever, and I look at them and be like, I'll just buy it from you and I'll worry about it later. And then before I knew it, I had like an asinine amount of this stuff that I needed to go through. And so I been going back and forth with my toy dealer friend, and what I'm going to do is what I basically said was like, I am never going through these. Like, it's just, it's never going to happen. So what I want you to do is, I would love for you to do it, or hire someone or whatever. You go through everything, and I want the cleanest, most complete version of every figure in the lot, and like new O-rings and all the rest. Like, that would be awesome. And then you just can keep everything else.
Yeah.
Which would be probably a very, very valuable endeavor for the person. Because I bought a lot of the Joes before COVID, and COVID spiked the cost of all the collectibles so much. I can't even believe how much things cost now. So I have, I don't know, probably, I mean, I don't know how much it would be, $10,000 worth of stuff, probably, just, as a lot. I mean, if you split them up, it would be worth way, way more than that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that shelf behind you's a couple grand for sure.
So I just know that I'm never going to do it. Yeah. Like the same ones that I've had set up here already is like, first of all, this is like 5% of them probably.
Yeah.
And I did this like 3 years ago. So it's just not going to happen.
I have a giant collection of, there was a game called Hero Clicks in the early 2000s. I mean, it's still going, but I have a giant collection, literally thousands of these miniature plastic figures that you would like set up on a board, and they have stats and you fight with them and everything. And they're all based on superheroes, whether it's DC or Marvel or some other indie company. And I have oh my gosh, I have so many of them, and I constantly think like I'm going to go through these and pick them out and like price them individually because some of them are worth a good bit of money, and I kind of just came to the realization within the last week, like I need to just take these to a guy. Like I have a guy at the local comic shop that's a friend of mine, and I'm like, I just need to take him to him. I trust him, even if he gives me only a portion of what they're worth. For them not to be stacked 8 boxes high in my garage would be worth it to get a couple, whatever, a fourth of whatever it is. But just to have somebody else look through them, because I'm never going to do it. That's kind of like your GI Joes. I can
put you in touch with my guy. You know.
Okay, yeah, that might be good.
He's great. He's a listener.
My wife would appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, I traded Kenny's. I've been working with Kenny for 5 or 6 years now. He's super trustworthy. Like I traded him when I moved from California. Chris will remember I had a shit ton of like just random like swag from Sony, like some really nice shit.
You gave
and from other companies too. And I traded it all to him for future considerations.
Yeah.
And then I cashed in on that with like all the G.I. Joe stuff. And we've gone back and forth on some other transactions as well. So he's 100% legit. And
nice.
I'm sure he'd help you out. So I'll definitely make that connection.
Sure.
Yeah. Who haven't we heard from yet? Chris, we go to you yet? Where are you on the topic of retro gaming? And are you attracted to it? What is the appeal to it? Will it last forever?
Yeah, I think there will always be a subset of people who are just inherently, or maybe not inherently, but just generally like it just seems to be that there's always people who are interested in the past in some way. Like I know my friends are like super into, music that is a lot older than us, and there's my nephew is like really into old movies, and he's like, I think he's like he's going to be a senior in high school, so he's like relatively young. So like I think that will always be there, especially I think almost especially with games as opposed to other mediums actually, because there's a lot of really popular shit right now that kind of borrows a lot from that. I mean, I think you're saying like Stardew Valley is like the biggest example that I can think of really. Like Stardew Valley is literally, that is a game that like I was really not into games like that really as a kid. Like I liked 2D games, but not 2D like up down. Like I liked side scrollers. Like that was my jam. Like the like Mega Man and Shadow of the Ninja and things like that. Like side scroller platformers. Obviously the Mario games. I wasn't really into like the Final Fantasy kind of like sprawling. Like the idea of an open world in 2D just didn't really click with me really at all. And Stardew Valley, granted not open world, but like that kind of like open map design is hugely popular. Like it is consistently, I see people playing it constantly. It is huge on Switch, which is huge with, obviously that's a console that's huge with kids. And I think it's going to be less about the nostalgia that people have for the things that inspired that, but I do think people are going to grow up with nostalgia for that, for Stardew, and Minecraft is another kind of example where it's like Minecraft was huge for kids who just didn't grow up, who weren't playing games that looked like that. And so I do think there's an element of like people are capable of. I think we're getting now to a place where more often than not, people are comfortable not with games that don't look like AAA cutscenes. Like you see, like, I mean, I can think of just some of like, I thought Cyber Shadow was great. I thought Celeste was great. I love Warhammer Bolt Gun. I thought was sick. Dead Cells, wonderful. So, and even when we go beyond that era and leading into the PS1, which I think the PS1 is kind of having that kind of in vogue nostalgic renaissance now, where like even just on Smiling Friends you had that character that was like a PS1 inspired character.
Right.
And
I thought of you, dude, when I saw that. I was like, Chris is gonna love this shit.
Dude, I was cracking the fuck up. They even had him like the dithering effect on him was perfect.
Go, or whatever his fucking catchphrase was. Yeah.
And even in I think even in the new, there's like a new Disney movie that has like nostalgia is represented by like a Final Fantasy character from like that era or something like that, or like a stylized version of like Cloud or a generic anime protagonist. And you're seeing even games like Crow Country, which is apparently very, very good, and people are talking a lot about it. Lethal Company was huge. That game looks ancient.
Yeah.
That's in the 3D space, sure, but I do think and even just recently at this Summer Games Fest, Blumhouse Games, I think, announced a couple of horror games, and one of them looked, I think it was called Fear the Spotlight. I think it's called by Cozy Game Pals. I think I'm not sure. I think I'm remembering that correctly though. But that was very PS1, very blocky, between PS1 and PS2, like very clearly not PS2, very clearly like above PS1 with like, effects and stuff. And I wouldn't even be surprised if these games kind of become a lot more attractive to people in general, not only because the industry is kind of exploding right now, but because these are probably a lot cheaper to make. And because they're a lot cheaper to make, they're probably a lot more. I have this feeling that we're going to see an explosion of these types of games because people are a lot more receptive to them. People are a lot more interested in them. And the risk comparatively is hilariously low in comparison to something like, anything that Embracer is funneling billions. And, it just seems like a trend that's going to continue to grow. And now we've had the conversation about like, are there too many games? Yeah. But like, I do think the lower the risk and the lower the cost to make these things, like the less that really matters. And it kind of becomes a little bit like how it used to be, where it's like, okay, well, yeah, we could put this game out and it might not get much attention, but like we really only have to make this much to make a healthy profit. So like, why the fuck not put this out? And
right.
I don't know. I think these types of games, these retro games, will always have some kind of place. I think there will always be people interested in the style, whether it brings them to a simpler time or because they just think it looks unique and different in a way that's exciting. To people who get bored of like, oh, Unreal Engine 5, like realism. And I mean, you see that with everybody who plays games. I think everybody who plays games seriously, I think will ultimately get bored of an aesthetic, not permanently, but for a while. Like right now I'm kind of feeling this, like I'm really tapped out on open world guy with sword. You know what I mean? Because I'm playing Elden Ring. I was playing Stellar Blade for a little bit while Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. They're very different games, obviously, but there's an aesthetic to the feel of those games that it's like these are very similar. And even Elden Ring and now the Shadow of the Erdtree, it's like the idea of going to Rise of the Ronin right now feels like I would rather do anything else. And it has nothing to do with the quality of Rise of the Ronin. It's just like I'm so full of this. I actually think I'm probably most likely going to go to System Shock. Just because it's way different and it's like almost like a palate cleanser.
So good.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I was stoked on the demo and then I just kind of, I don't know, I just forgot about it. I was waiting for the game to come out and then like, I think I was waiting for it to come out on PS5 because I feel like at that point it would be like the 1.0, like the, all the weird stuff would be kind of patched if there was any weird stuff. But I do think that will happen for a lot of people and like, okay, Unreal Engine. It's like, damn, I want something else. And then something like Crow Country is trending or like Bloodborne Kart, and you're like, what is that? And then that will, I think there's a long future for these types of games. They will never be at the peak that they used to be. They will never be the dominant, market player that they used to be. Obviously not. But I don't think they're going away. I think, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see developers, who are young now, very inspired by Stardew and, trying to take up that mantle and diving into that style of game and making more of that game. I think it's going to dwindle, but I don't think it's ever going away. I mean, dude, boomer shooters are back. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like that by itself is crazy. Like that is actually something I never thought would happen, sincerely, because I just thought like, what is the reason? Like FPSs are so much more like in depth and robust now and mechanically like crazy. And then you play something like Ion Fury or Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun and you're like, oh,
yep.
Wait, this is actually
this is
genuinely fun. Yeah, this is fun, and it is actually different.
Yeah,
like it is actually like a fundamentally different experience than like a Far Cry or like a Call of Duty or like a Halo or a Destiny. It's like it's fundamentally its own thing, and I think people will always be hungry for that, like that unique experience.
Yeah, it's all well said. I'm thinking of like what thread I want to pull at, and I guess for me, since we're bringing up boomer shooters, is there's something so unlike 2D platformers and action games. There's something so alien about boomer shooters to me because I wasn't really playing them as a kid. As I've said many times in the past, like my dad had a 486 and Doom was randomly on it. So I played that game, the original Doom, extensively. And Doom is a series that I do know because of that through to today, although I didn't beat the Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. As I noted, I played them both extensively, and I'm excited about the new one. But I was noting to Micah that playing Ion Fury, I'm like, there's something alien about this, but there's something very familiar about it and nostalgic about being in spaces like this. And I was comparing it to like the liminal space thing we discussed. We brought this up on the show, Chris, about Five Nights at Freddy's, or like the weird mall videos that people do and stuff where I'm like, there's that quality to these games that makes them eerie. And like when you go outside in Ion Fury and you look up and it's just a flat screen, basically like an orange. It's like there's something so strange about it, and I can see that draw from a nostalgic point of view, which that does exist for me via Doom, but it also makes me want to explore that genre deeper. Like I've never played Quake. There are Doom spinoffs I never played. And then I was reading about the build engine, obviously id Tech 1 and all of the rest, and there are just so many games that I never played. And I was looking and I'm like, a lot of these are available on PS5 and PS4. Like I'm not talking about like third person shooters to me by the late 90s or first person shooters rather than the late 90s to me were like Turok or things that I was playing on console or ports of games that were coming. And of course, the original Medal of Honor to me is like the seminal, like kind of beginning of first person shooters on console as we really know it now. Like not a more, like Wolfenstein, people forget like there are no ceilings or floors in Wolfenstein. Like there, it's like, it's so yeah, I've been really attracted in a retro because I've played so many of the old games at this point that I guess it's fun to find something else that's old. I like to think about where I was at the time when I'm looking at a game like that, or like how old I was or what might've been going on and what I was playing instead, and how I was so insular with my friends. Like we all had, the funny thing is we all had computers, but no one was playing games on them.
Yeah.
It's very weird. Yeah. Like no one, like none of my friends were playing games on computer,
Yeah. I was playing like, I when I was a kid, like a kid, I remember just playing like point and click adventure stuff. Like really like very, very clearly kid friendly. And then for that reason, like the PC always felt to me like a child thing. Like it's so funny. It's like the PC was like for children because that's where like Putt Putt was, or like Freddy Fish, or like Darby the Dragon, or these like really obscure like point, or like Lego Knights, just like very, very kid oriented things. And then I would
Mario
go to
teach us typing.
Right, and or Mavis Beacon. And then I would look over at my PS2 and I would see like Silent Hill and I would look over to my Xbox and I would see like Halo and Splinter Cell, and I was like, that looks way more adult. And as like a kid, you just kind of you always want to feel like older and cooler, and so it's just like, I'm sticking with console for a long. I didn't play PC again until probably 2013 or something. Like I was kind of late to it.
I tried. Like we had, like in school in the late 80s and early 90s, we had access to like some, I guess, 386s and Apple IIs and Macintoshes and stuff. And I would, with the 5 3/4 or 5 1/4 inch floppy disk and all the rest. And then we got our first computer in the early 90s, which was a 486. It had Windows 3.1 and like 3.5 inch disc floppy drive or whatever, where you get games on like 17 discs or whatever. And so I was always intimidated by that. And you would try every once in a while, and I could never really get things going on the computer. And again, people around me just weren't using it for that function. And then when I got my Sony Vaio in 1996, which was a computer, a Pentium 1 computer with 128 megs of RAM and a CD drive. And then I started trying to buy games occasionally at like Circuit City or whatever. And I got some of them to work, but most of the time I just was so frustrated with it. I was like, fuck this shit. Except for the games that it came with, like Space Cadet Pinball and Pipe Dreams and all sorts of random things like that. Ski Free.
Yeah.
So I was just turned off from it. Like it was, as a young kid, it was so obvious to me. It's like, oh, I go sit down with SNES and put a cartridge in it and it just works. Mm-hmm. This is like a whole mess, and it's not worth, the mess for it to get involved in it. So
it's a little better, but not much.
What'd you say?
It's a little better these days, but not much.
No, I know. I really don't understand the appeal of PC gaming. Never have. That's not a put on. It's like, I'm really mystified that people want to play on a PC. To me, like I'd rather almost not play games at all than play on a PC.
That's crazy.
Damn, that is crazy.
That's
I'm so
so
used to
crazy.
playing on console.
You're a
on
crazy man.
I think
on a
what broke me.
console, easy plug and play.
I will say like the convenience is like unmatched. Like I don't deny that because like PC still gives me problems sometimes. Like oh, why is my screen tearing? God damn it! I got to go into this file and for all intents and purposes, generally on console things just work, or at least reasonably well enough. But I do think, I don't know, what got me really was like we finally had a computer that could run things, and I was like, oh, but this computer can run things. I guess I'll log back into my Steam account that I only made for I think Half-Life 2 or something on a laptop like ages ago. I didn't even like it. It was like a controversial. I didn't even really like Half-Life 2 in comparison to the first one. So I remember.
What?
I know, right? That's like that is a really common response to that. I really love the first Half-Life, and the second one was like, all right. I think I just came to it late because it was doing a lot of cool physics stuff, but like I had already played like a million cool physics games by then, and it was just like, okay, cool, like I get it. It's like a Citizen Kane type situation where it's like, I appreciate you, but I'd rather watch. I'm probably gonna watch Casablanca or like It's a Mad World or Inherit the Wind or another way cooler older movie.
Yeah,
but I think, it was 2013. I remember playing Batman: Arkham Asylum on PC. That was like the first time I actually played it. I think I played like a demo of it or something on 360, and I was like,
I don't think that's a good port either, if I recall.
It ran super well for me. Like it ran like I had no issues with it. Like it might have been. It was 2013, so it might have been.
Oh, I'm thinking maybe Arkham Knight. Whatever.
Arkham Knight on PC was horrendous, but it was because Arkham Asylum I think is 2008 if I'm not mistaken. 2009,
right,
yeah. And so by then I think anything that was wrong with it was probably fixed. But like playing that game at like 60,
nice.
At that time was fucking like, whoa. I still mainly played on console still, but like every now and again I would pop into Steam, and and now my library's full of bullshit that I've never touched. I have every single Tomb Raider game because they were selling them in a bundle for $9, and I was like, that's a steal.
I need that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it is,
Chris,
to be fair.
But I just bought every Kingdom Hearts thing on here because they're all on sale, and I was like, I'm not gonna play these right now.
Yeah.
Even though you have
Steam,
an Epic Creator account and
Steam, I just need Steam, dude. Epic's such bullshit every time I get on there. It's slow. Yeah. Just fucking, it's annoying, dude.
It is really fucking slow. Like I log into Epic every now and again, and I see like I have all these like great titles, and I try to install them, and then it takes 5 times longer to install than it does on Steam, and I'm like, okay, what is going on?
Sucks. None of my friends play on it.
Yeah, my library's huge, but like, and I have some of these installed, like, but man, what a terrible storefront. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
I wonder how long it'll hold on.
Shit out.
Yeah,
Epic.
I wonder if they will hold on with it.
What the hell? There's a
on there.
There's a fucking Happy Tree Friends game. What?
It's game for everything, I guess.
What the hell?
All right, let's wrap it up. It's time to go. I'm satiated. There's so many different things we can talk about with retro gaming. I want to save other topics for another time. It's like this is more of like retro gaming's appeal. Let's say that's what I'll call it. Yeah. What's wrong, Chris?
I'm just so baffled by this. 9 months ago, there's
Happy Tree Friends.
Yeah, because that is such an ancient internet thing, and I just feel like this is something that I feel like I would have heard about, and for this to be like 9 months ago that this trailer came out, I was just like, okay, it doesn't look very good. I guess that's why I didn't hear about it.
Surprise.
Let's
so strange. Yeah.
Let's go around the horn and say goodbye to everyone. Appreciate you guys joining me today. Brad, goodbye to you. Hope you have a good weekend. What's on your agenda?
Sly Cooper. We playing more Sly Cooper, getting that platinum.
Nice. Yeah, I have the platinum from the PS3 version.
Yeah. This trophy list is more interesting, Colin.
Oh, it's different?
Fun to do. Yeah, it's different.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even expect that. I guess it makes sense that it would be different because it's a literal port as opposed to the remaster. That's cool. Good. Did you see that they released? I not enough people are talking about this just because, and this is how I know that there are just not as many PlayStation nerds out there as I think sometimes, is that they released Ghost Hunter. Where they're about to release Ghost Hunter, which is like one of the most obscure first party games ever.
I don't even know that game.
Yeah, it's a Cambridge studio game. You should go read about it.
That game is mega. I had no, even when I was like looking up footage of it, I was like, this doesn't even look remotely familiar.
I'm actually.
This looks like a game that got canceled and didn't come out.
It looks like a game that you would see like Will Smith playing in like some random movie for like 5 seconds before they cut to like a fucking Shrek attacking him or whatever. I don't know what the hell Will Smith was in the 2000s.
It was like Jesse playing. What was it? Rage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a Jesse Pinkman was playing, I think, Sonic 06 in Breaking Bad. I think.
Christ,
it's funny shit. Yeah, Anyway, it does. That just came up because of the Sly Cooper thing. I was just fascinated by that because I'm like, I'm actually got a nice little stack of classics that I need to play at this point because I want to play. Didn't they release Resistance Retribution and Killzone Liberation?
Yes,
they did. I think. Yeah.
So I mean, it's like those are two games I haven't played in a long time. I mean,
I've never played those. So
shout out to Sony. I think they're quietly doing a pretty nice job of getting stuff out, and there's so many games to touch. Still,
PS3 games.
They totally are. I'm looking forward to checking out Sly when I'm done with this glut that I'm working on.
Hell yeah,
because that actually
Sly's cool.
Oh, it's so good.
It's very PS1 coded, Chris. You'll like it.
Oh yeah, that's music to my ears.
Early sucker punch. Well, enjoy. Have a good weekend, Ben.
Yes.
Goodbye to you. Be well. What's on the agenda?
I think Dustin's dad is in town, and I think he and I and another one of our buddies and our dads are going to go get wings tonight.
Oh, that's fun.
So,
Sick.
yeah, should be a good time.
Nice. That sounds great.
Yeah.
V Rising's on the agenda, Ben. Also, you just don't know.
Is it? When? You gotta tell me in advance.
We could do tonight. We could do.
I got responsibilities, Brad. You got
any other night.
Okay.
Or any night, whatever.
All right.
Chris, goodbye to you. Be well. What's on your agenda?
Well, it's 12. It's almost 1 o'clock. So in 30 minutes, I'm gonna record. We're recording Snark Tank today. So that's 2 hours. And then after that, I got done. I'll probably just hit up some of my friends, see what they're doing. If nothing, I'm just gonna spend all day on Destiny.
Nice.
How's the in-person thing working for you?
Oh, it's night and day, honestly, from what we were working with. Like, I really, there's something about a comedy podcast specifically that like you just need to feed off of the energy in the room, and when you can't really assess that, it's just hard. It's so much harder, and this is like so easy in comparison. The editing is a bitch, but whatever. It's worth it.
Nice.
Cool. Well, good. Enjoy yourself. Be well. I'm gonna get in the pool, I think. And
that's nice. It's hot over there.
Shoot some baskets. I like shooting basketball in the pool.
Nice.
Were you gonna say something, Chris?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. All right. Well, let's get the hell out of here. Thanks again, guys. Thank you all out there for your love, kindness, and support. For all things Last Day Media, patreon.com/lastdaymedia, lastdaymedia.store. We'll see you next time. Dagan won't be here again, so don't get too excited. All right. Goodbye. Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman, and is edited by associate producer, Ben Smith. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.